Welcome in. It is day 3 of the Arrowhead Addict podcast live at the Super Bowl on Radio Row. Patrick Allen, Matt Verderame back for day 3. And boy, do we have a special lineup of guests for you today. In just a few minutes, Verderame, we're going to be joined by the great Hall of Famer, former Chief, former 49er, Joe Montana. So my question for you is, 1, how excited are you? And 2, is Joe going to have to get a restraining order after he leaves?
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty unique, man. Of all the people I've interviewed over my career, I've never interviewed Joe Montana. So every time we've done it for Fansided, it's been calm, which I'm still deeply annoyed by.
Yep.
But here we are. I can't wait. I am very much looking forward to it. And then also we have other guests as well throughout the course of 2 hours. So there's a lot to get to.
Yeah. If you want to help us out, if you're watching live on YouTube, make sure you like this video. If you got a Twitter, tweet it out. I know Chiefs fans are going to want to see us talk to Joe Montana. I just mean, for me, I know I've said this on the podcast multiple times. Joe Montana is pretty much the reason I'm sitting here today. As a kid growing up, starting to get into the NFL, I love Joe Montana. He's the reason I became a Chiefs fan, and becoming a Chiefs fan is the reason why I have a job, covering the league right now. It's absolutely unbelievable. I'm so excited. I can't say anything. I don't want to say all that to him because he's going to be like, who is this weird guy? But it is going to be really cool. Definitely a high watermark for me. This maybe even surpasses the KC Beer thing.
Let's not go nuts.
By the way, our sponsors, KC Beer, sold out of Arrow Red Lager again. The six packs. You can still get it. Get a growler. Go down to the beer hall at KC Beer Co. in Kansas City. Our beer, Arrow Red Lager. They sold out of the 6-packs. They made more, and they sold out of them again.
It's a beautiful thing.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting us. But let's get back to Joe Montana. What's your favorite memory from him during his time as a Chief?
Well, I was 5, but my favorite memory was probably when they beat the Steelers and the Oilers back-to-back weeks in the playoffs. I mean, that had to be. And then I do remember that Mile High comeback the following year. I was 6. I stayed up for that entire game. That was a cool thing, just being able to stay up that late.
Yeah.
We woke up my mother. Excuse me. That was a lot of fun, man. Yeah. It was a lot of
fun. What is your opinion? I was in an Uber yesterday, actually. We were heading back to where we're staying, and our driver was a 49ers fan. So we were talking to him about the game, a couple weeks ago and all that. We talked to him. I told him we were going to be talking to Joe, and he said, he was laughing about Kansas City during the Carl Peterson years. He said, we used to joke that it was San Francisco Midwest because all the quarterbacks would come over. What do you think? Why do you think Carl was so obsessed with 49ers quarterbacks?
Because you couldn't draft one of his own. I mean, that might be part of the problem.
I hope Todd Blackledge isn't walking around here somewhere.
I hope he's not either. I really do. It's funny too. Like the Chiefs have a table set up not too far away from us, and I was thinking, like, if somebody like that walked by, like, would the Chiefs table walk him in there and they'd be, get out of here?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Poor guy. No, I'm very excited. Also coming up today, after we talk to Joe, we're going to have another former Chief. Kyle Turley is going to be coming by, and another Super Bowl champion, Jim McMahon. That's a good one, living in Chicago.
Yeah,
man's worshipped out there.
He is. Between him, Walter Payton, some of the very famed '85 Bears.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun. Not too many guys know what it's like to win a Super Bowl for the Bears.
Yeah, that's true.
McMahon's one of them.
Yeah. If I ask Jim McMahon to do the Super Bowl shuffle for us, do you think he'll have security escort me out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I wanted to get it all out of the way right up front. So those guys are going to drop by. Then we'll have Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus. Another day of Pro Football Focus. We're going to ask him the hard questions.
I know the fans out there love it so much. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be a very civilized conversation around PFF. It always is.
Yeah. And then we're going to have Clay Harbor dropping by, former NFL tight end, played for the Eagles, from the Chicago area as well. He grew up in Libertyville, actually. So one of the suburbs of Chicago. And I'm going to ask him if he thinks Travis Kelsey's the GOAT. What do you think he's going to say?
You know what? He might say yeah. Like, he's a new age guy. He's not I think he's like my age. I actually met Clay down at Mobile.
Oh, did you?
For the Senior Bowl. Yeah, we shared drinks. Great guy. Great guy.
What's the man's go-to cocktail?
Beer.
Oh.
Beer. So
Man after my own heart.
Yeah. So that said, I'll tell you, you want to feel terrible about yourself. I stand next to Clay Harbor.
Yeah.
Who has, I think, 2% body fat.
Yeah.
Nicest guy, though. Couldn't meet anybody who's nicer. Really, really just a good hang. So looking forward to seeing them talking a little football.
I saw Kyle Turley walking around here as well.
It's not small.
Yeah, make you feel bad about yourself. Well, let's talk a little bit of Chiefs before Joe gets here. So I just saw a James Palmer report that Chris Jones is a little under the weather, got a sore throat, some congestion, says he's going to be fine. And some other Chiefs players are a little bit under the weather, apparently. It's Wednesday right now, so plenty of time to get over the sniffles, a cold. How worried are you about a little bit of illness running around in that locker room, in the most important week of the year?
Zero. Honestly. I mean, put yourself in his position. You played your whole life to be in the Super Bowl, got a little bit of scratchy throat, some congestion, double up the Sudafed and get it done.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that's going to become some real big issue throughout the course of the week. The flu's different because the flu, you can lose weight. They can really take it out of you.
Yeah.
A head cold for a couple of days, I'm not worried about that.
I mean, I get it. Personally, as a fan, though, I want these guys feeling as good as possible out there on the field. I don't want any distractions. So hopefully, if a couple of the key guys are feeling a little bit sick, they got enough time before the weekend to get over it. But it sounds like all the other injury news coming out of the Chiefs camp sounds really positive. Sounds like Kadarius Toney's good to go, other than McCole Hardman being placed on IR. Who do you think's going to have sort of the surprise impact in this game? Is it a guy like Kadarius Toney?
Could be. Trying to go off the board here. You know what? I'll Mike Dana.
Okay.
Because everybody's going to look. Jones is going to get doubled, and Karlaftis and Frank are going to get chipped. And what about Mike Dana, who's going to get one-on-ones anytime he's on the field?
Right.
He had 5 sacks this year, and he did not play anywhere near the snaps that these other guys did.
Yeah.
I could see him having a game where he has 2 sacks, and you're like, oh, whoa, Mike Dana, huge reason they won the game. I could see that. So
another thing I wanted to ask you about is I'm getting a little bit annoyed. As we're watching the coverage, it's driving me crazy that every time I flip on the TV, these analysts are talking about, the Chiefs have a few really good players, but the Eagles just top to bottom have a much better roster. And this isn't a disrespect to the Eagles. I think they have a very good team. And maybe their team's a little deeper than the Chiefs, but do you feel like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, because they're so great, that people just overlook all the other players on the team, all the other talented guys, and Kelsey, of course, the guys that they have in this roster. And so they look at a team like the Eagles, who Hurts is a good quarterback, but he's not Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And so they look closer at the rest of the team, and they just sort of assume that, it's just all Andy, it's all Travis, it's all Chris Jones carrying these guys and Mahomes.
I think because Mahomes exists, they're always going to be seen as Mahomes and the Mahomesettes.
Right.
They could have the best team in NFL history around them, and people are always going to say, Jeff Schwartz, our boy. I'll say, by the way, and I say this as a compliment because Jeff's a friend. Jeff is one of the largest individuals I've ever seen in my life.
He's a big guy.
Just in terms of raw stature, it's unbelievable. I feel like if you said to me, you get 100 opportunities to try to beat Jeff Schwartz with a pass rush move, could you even do it once?
No.
No. I don't know that I'd survive to the 100th attempt.
No. I don't think I could bump into him in a crowd.
No, just zero.
Stay on my
I feel
feet.
like his child.
Yeah.
At some point I'll have to just yell at Jeff from across the room.
Yeah, right.
But in any event, no, I think, look, they're always going to be seen as Mahomes and company.
Right.
Because Mahomes is so you know why the Eagles aren't seen like that? They are really talented. They are really, really good. But Hurts isn't that level of player that you're like, oh, well, it's him and then it's this. How are the Bills seen? It's Josh Allen. And then it's also the Bills.
Right.
Even the Bengals to some degree. It's Burrow, and it's the Bengals had a really good team around them.
People are like, oh, yeah, their defense is average, all that stuff.
Their defense is a lot better than average. People don't give the Bengals – I said this all year long. People don't give the Bengals roster enough credit.
Yeah.
But why is it? Because Burrow. Because everybody looks at Burrow and goes, oh, my God, he's the man. He's the guy. When in reality, yes, he's great, but there's a lot that goes into being a great team beyond just the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think if you watched, in particular, that AFC Championship game, And of course he was brilliant. But if you watch that game, I don't know how you could walk away from it and being like, oh yeah, Mahomes put him on his back and he's the only reason they won. That was as much of a team win. And what about the Jacksonville game after Mahomes got hurt? That offensive line just put up a brick wall after that. They really stepped up. A bunch of other players made plays. The rookies are making plays. So I personally, as a Chiefs fan, and I'm sure the Chiefs players feel this a little bit, find it insulting and a little bit of lazy analysis, frankly, to be sitting up here on Super Bowl week and being like, yeah, the Eagles are just, the whole roster's just so much better than the Chiefs. Chiefs have some damn good players. What did they have? Were they tied for the most Pro Bowlers in the league? They got all pros on the offensive line.
Most in the NFL.
You're like, get out of here. Get out of here with this commentary. And again, it's not to take anything away from the Eagles, but these are two really good teams. That's why they're in the Super Bowl, and it's just not one man. This isn't the NBA, right, where like LeBron James is bringing a bunch of scrubs to the NBA Finals. You can't do it in the NFL.
I'm with you. I tend to agree. Look, you know what? It's a weird talking point, and also like the Chiefs' defense this year, in the playoffs. In the playoffs this season, they have given up 2 touchdowns in 2 games for drives starting on the other side of the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
2 against Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow.
Right.
Like, it's not like it's like some bum fest that they've played.
Right.
You know, it's just a thing. Look, and maybe this is, and I admit openly, maybe it's a little bit of the bias in me. If the Chiefs had beaten the hell out of Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy, all we'd hear, and not even Brock Purdy because he barely played the game.
Right.
All we hear is, well, they played nobody. They beat nobody. Look at who these other teams have beaten.
Right.
It's like, give them the credit that they're due. I mean, they've beaten really good teams all year long. Their defense is playing as well as anybody the last month and a half of the season. Anybody. And look, there were a lot of fair questions about, hey, was it late in the year playing some teams like Denver, playing the Houstons of the world? Well, they've gotten in the playoffs. They've answered that question. I mean, no offense to Mahomes, they won that game against Cincinnati because of their defense.
Yep.
Straight up. They won that game because of their defensive side of the ball. There is no way they're beating the Bengals if they play defensively the way they played the first 2/3 of the year.
Right. And if they play defensively like they did against the Bengals in this Super Bowl, they're going to win the game. You got to believe Mahomes is feeling a lot better. He's now 3 weeks removed from the injury.
Right.
As far as we know, he didn't have any setbacks. That should be good news for Chiefs fans. And I think there's a little bit, if you're the Eagles, you got to go into this game assuming he can do all the things that he can do, right? Like you can't go in there and be like, he's going to be hobbled and change your game plan.
No, I think, look, if you're the Chiefs, I almost wonder if you start out by just being like, look, we're going to roll him out once or twice. We're going to make Philadelphia think about it.
Yeah.
I know if I'm the Chiefs, I wouldn't hate doing that. Put it in the idea that, hey, or put the idea in the mind of the Eagles, hey, maybe we're going to bootleg him. Maybe he can run a little bit.
Right.
Even if you don't have that as a big part of your plan, it's like when teams will throw deep early in the game just to make you think like, hey, they're willing to do it. Show that you're willing to do it. Yeah.
I saw some talk on Twitter today. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, about the Chiefs' average in the playoffs running the football. And I forget who tweeted it, forgive me, but they basically made the point that if you take away Pacheco's big run, which was also bottled up,
right,
the Chiefs are averaging like something like 2.2 or 2.4 yards per carry. How much of that is the Chiefs aren't good at running the football, and how much of it is the Chiefs just don't run the football?
A combination, but to borrow the idea from who we're going to have on tomorrow, Stephen A. Smith, my answer to that would just be, we don't care.
We don't care.
We don't care. I don't care if they run for 1 yard a clip.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, that's not who they are. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them. I don't think it factors in one way or the other. As we get to welcome in one of the truly greatest of all time, Joe Montana. Joe, welcome in. Thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So first things first, thanks for stopping by. Who are you working with, and why are you working with them?
Well, I got a chance to work with a fun promotion with Advanced Auto Parts, and they have a great promotion going on called Most Valuable Play. And so if you want to be a part or the chance to win, get on advancedautoparts.com and register and before the game starts. And if anyone throws a touchdown pass of 25 yards or more in the game, Doesn't have to be the quarterback because we know everybody's throwing the ball around here every now and then.
Yeah.
25 people will be picked to win gas for a year at the Shell stations around the country, and also a $500 gift certificate to go get those new wipers and anything else you need for your car at Advance.
Awesome. You obviously played the vast majority of your career at the 49ers, but since this is a Chiefs stream, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about those 2 years in Kansas City.
Yeah.
When you look back on those 2 years, what are a couple of moments that stand out for you as maybe your favorite during your time there in Kansas City?
I think that the whole experience was just a blast. I mean, from when we moved in, the people around us, the people in the city, the fans in the stadium, insane. The only thing I wish I'd had time to spend more would have been at some of the barbecues outside the stadium.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just went to a great team, a great organization, a great team. I mean, we should have won a Super Bowl, and I apologize that we didn't, because when we played in Buffalo that year, I couldn't throw the ball from here to that camera. And that was the net. And we did the dumbest thing by losing a game later in the year that cost us home field advantage. And we'd already beat Buffalo once in the year earlier. And even as bad as it was, and I was playing in that game, we still had a chance to tie the game at halftime and still turn things around. And yeah, that was a Super Bowl team should have won. That was a good football team.
Now, a couple of years ago, we lost Coach Schottenheimer. I wanted to ask you, you got to play for Marty for a few years in Kansas City. What was it about Marty that you thought made him such a great coach?
Marty understood the basics of the game, the fundamental part of it, and what it takes to win at that level. And sometimes a little bit to a quarterback's dismay because we called it Marty ball.
Yeah.
Run on first down, run on second down,
yeah.
Throw on 3rd and 8. You're killing us, Marty. Stop. But, he really realized that the running game was a big part of winning, no matter what team you're on. Even in today's game, you got to be able to run the football. And, it was fun and experience, and I'm not sure he was ready for me when I got there. As we were in our first meeting, and I saw Paul Hackett, who knows me from San Francisco days. All of a sudden, there was this really bad smell in the locker room, and Paul Hackett knew right away. I threw a stink bomb in the team meeting, and it cleared out the whole thing. And Marty went running out of there, cussing and swearing at me. But I was just getting warmed up.
There you go.
You had so many great wins. Of course, 4 Super Bowl wins in San Francisco, and as you mentioned, a great run in '93 at the Chiefs. Fell a little bit short. I want to ask you, you're known for your comebacks as much as anything. Maybe the last great comeback of your career was in '94 in Denver on a Monday night. Got Marty his first win at Mile High. What do you remember about that game, and what does it mean to you looking back on it?
Well, that was one of those classics with John. I've known John for a long time, and going back and forth, and everybody thought the last touchdown that was scored was going to be, that was it, and then another team goes back, they go back down and score again, and then we get the ball back with a little bit of time, and it was fun because actually the touchdown pass that Willie caught was right there by my wife and my daughter were right there by the end zone, so it was fun for them to be right so close to that last one, and that was a fun game. Playing up there is hard, for everybody, and then it's not just the altitude. They play well at home, and fan base is crazy and throw stuff at you and everything else. But those are the fun games to be in. The game with Pittsburgh, and coming back and at home there. So that was good.
You get to play against a lot of great quarterbacks during your era. You're going up against John Elway, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly. Is there somebody that you like doing battle against the most? I mean, the quarterbacks don't step on the field at the same time, but is there somebody you really enjoy playing against?
Well, we had a lot of battles I was just talking with his son over here with Phil Simms and the Giants. We played them a lot, and it was a good battle back and forth for a long time, and it was funny. It's we had this crazy relationship. Like, we hated each other, both teams, but like Phil and I. And my wife said to me, "Why don't you like him?" I go, "I don't know. He's on the other team." And she goes, "Well, does he know why he doesn't like you?" And I go, "I don't know. I never asked him." So what? He goes, "Why don't you talk to him?" I said, "Okay, I never thought of that." So I talked to him one time. I was game. My wife says, "This is crazy," and I go, "I agree." So we're opponents, but then it became such good friends. He actually coached my kids, teaching throwing the football after that. So as they were coming up, the boys, so it was pretty fun.
Did he do a good job?
He did a great job. He did a great job as usual.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious. 4 Super Bowls, but to get to the first one, you had that famous 81 NFC title game at home against Dallas. When you look back on it, obviously, look, the rings are what matter most in terms of his team achievement, but that game to get there, when you're an underdog at home, it is a weird game. It's 6 turnovers in that game.
I know, that's what I was going to say.
It was a bizarre game. Does that game mean more to you in some ways, and even some of the Super Bowls, because it got you to your first one?
I think that one did more than almost as much as the first Super Bowl. You know, when you look at the big hump for the 49ers over the history, has been the Cowboys. And, you know, we had already beat them once in the year. And so, you know, they were a lot of talk going back from them about they still had no respect for us and this and that. And so to be able to go back in and beat them, and, you know, and the Cowboy fans are always all mad at me. And I go, you don't be mad at me, because you guys got the ball back and you couldn't score. So you should be mad at our defense. And they go, in fact, the one guy just right here said, "I don't even remember that, but I think you're right." I go, "No, I know I'm right. It was Eric Wright." Thanks to Eric Wright. Yeah, that's what won the game. But yeah, crazy, wasn't it? All the turnovers and fumbles and interceptions, everything.
Looking back, people would go, "Well, of course the Niners won. They had Joe Montana in it, but you weren't Joe Montana yet, right? You didn't have the legacy yet. You were a third-year quarterback. At what point, you had to go 89 yards on that last drive. At what point were you like, we're scoring? Was it legitimately 89 yards away, or was it at like?
No, it was. The thing about it is we really, I think we just needed a field goal to tie, and everybody was expecting us to throw the ball. Well, we ran the ball the majority of the way until we got down. We made a couple plays for first downs throwing the ball, but majority of it was come on the ground for us, and you know we didn't have an outstanding running back at the time. We didn't have Roger Craig. Linville did a great job, but there was. I don't know. It was an interesting game. I look back on it, and it reminds me of the last game I played at Notre Dame in Houston. Same thing. Nasty day though in Houston, and there were so many turnovers, but they forget because I threw a touchdown pass to win the game at the end of the game. So. I looked at that game as probably the kickstart to the 49ers, you know, getting past that hump.
And then you got to play with the greatest receiver of all time in Jerry Rice. As you watch the league today with a lot of these young dynamic wide receivers, is there anybody that you see out there playing that you're like, man, I would have liked to have tossed a few balls to him during my career?
Oh man, there's a bunch of them, and they're so big, you know.
Yeah.
You look at them, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head. You caught me off guard on that one, but I mean, I'll come up with the name in a minute. But there's when you look at the guys, just think of the guys that Marino had. You know, they were all 5'10", 5'11", maybe.
Yeah.
And these guys 6'4", 6'5", you know, getting free releases off the ball. Yeah. I like to see Danny play today.
When you look back, I mean, you retired after the 94 season. You made the playoffs a few times with Kansas City. The next year they went 13-3, and they were in the divisional round. They had that loss that Kansas City still hasn't gotten over.
Yep.
Do you ever look back and go, I wish I would have played one more year? Or do you look back and go, no, I'm good. I'm glad I retired right there.
I actually wish I would have. You know, I thought about it. I made a decision pretty quick, and mainly because of looking at the concussion, and I start looking at my family, and you know, I missed a lot of them growing up, and I started thinking about my health and that, probably made a hasty decision. I should have just finished that contract out. And, yeah, it would have been – we should have won. Like I said, that team could have won and should have won a Super Bowl in that period of time. Sad.
I read a story recently that when you came to Kansas City, Marty was trying to tell you, hey, get ready for how loud it's going to be at Arrowhead. And you said, come on, Marty, man, I've won 4 Super Bowls. I played in front of big crowds. Was he right?
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
You know, he said it's the most exhilarating thing you'll be a part of. And that's when I said exactly what you said. And wasn't ready for when the whole stadium says in the home of the Chiefs, right? I mean, I still get goosebumps today when I think about it.
Yeah.
You know, the first time out there, the fan base was just off, you know, and the funny part was, like Jennifer would say, when you lost the game, it was like, yeah, they were upset, but oh, don't worry, we'll get them next week. You know, there was always a positive side to them. And so fun to be around. The neighbors were great. And used to ride go-karts with our neighbors racing around our cul-de-sac. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Joe, I know you got to go real quick. Just who do you have in this game, the Chiefs or the Eagles?
Well, my heart's with the Chiefs by far.
Yeah.
Man, that other team is so big and on a roll right now. And I just hope I think if Patrick's healthy, I think they win. I don't know how bad he's hurt or if he is hurt, but they get so much pressure. He's going to have to be able to move around. And, you know, he makes great, quick decisions anyway, but part of his game is making those crazy things happen. But I'm pulling for the Chiefs, but got a little tiny edge to Philly right now. My only question is him.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for stopping by. True pleasure.
Thanks a lot,
My
Joe.
pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Hey, enjoy the week.
All right.
I just need some barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
We'll work on that.
Yeah,
Come
you and me
back around.
both. Yeah.
Hey, Joe Montana, San Francisco 49ers, a little bit. Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. So that was awesome. That was
cool.
Have you
We
ever?
should have stopped the stream now.
Yeah, right. I kind of need like a few
downhill from
minutes as a fan. Now, have you ever, like, we've been here on Radio Row for 3 days. You've been to previous Super Bowls. Have you ever experienced kind of the entourage that's following Joe Montana around? I mean, did you notice as soon as he came over here, it was just behind the camera around, like, you want to talk about a rock star, an NFL legend.
Yes.
There's legends walking and Hall of Famers walking all around here. Nobody cares. Joe Montana. It's like there's a bunch of 13-year-old girls around. It's early 60s and the Beatles are here. It's absolutely incredible.
People, by the way, literally the second got up asking him to sign football.
Yeah.
Just random people just rolling in.
Yeah.
The Chiefs film crew is behind
Yeah,
Richard right now filming.
Right. They're trying to get Montana.
You know, they're not here for us.
No, they're not. They're not like, hey, that's Allen and Verderame from Arrowhead Attic. We got to get them. It's they're stalking Joe Montana. Our guy Malcolm, our Special Olympics correspondent, is over there with Joe right now. We should have given him 3 footballs to have Joe sign.
Yes. Selfishly, yes.
So I mean, you've gotten to talk to a lot of people in your career.
Yep.
Was that a highlight for you?
Right at the top.
Right at the top.
Right at the top. Like I was good about being a professional, not a complete dork.
Yeah.
But I can't express how big of a fan I was of his as a kid.
Yeah.
Like on my desk in my office, I have I guess it's ceramic, and it's a statue of him in the Niners jersey with his hands up, like iconically, touching. I mean, let's put it this way: there would not be too many players that have that on my desk.
Yeah.
Okay? But for me, he was, when I fell in love with football, he was the guy.
Yep.
I mean, he was my guy. So to meet him, that's pretty cool. And he lived and he was great.
Yeah.
He was great. He was a lot of fun to talk to.
When I was a kid, and I'd go out in the backyard, by myself and just, we all did with a football, throwing passes to yourself. I used to watch Joe Montana every time he played, and I mimicked his drop back. Like I had it down cold, all the steps, the posture, everything. I was like, that's how you do it. Just absolute pleasure to get to talk to Joe. And it's just kind of all downhill from here.
Yeah, I mean, we have other Hall of Famers coming in.
I know.
And it's
absolutely.
With all due respect to those people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely incredible. shout out to all of you who were supporting us during that stream. I don't know what you guys were saying. I was locked in. Man.
Yeah, I was going to say, with all due respect, it is what it is.
Joe's a soft-spoken guy. It's loud around here. I had to lean in to hear him, but
that was really cool. And he, like I said, he was excellent. He really was. He was interesting. He was fun.
He was terrific. And he got some of the barbecue shout-outs.
Yeah.
The man knows his audience.
That's right. That's right. Hey, you know what? It's funny. He's got to be now 60, right around there.
Yeah.
Looks great. Looks good. Moving around just fine. Sharp as attack. And I mean, back then, my God, they were taking hits.
Yeah. Oh.
Not to denigrate anybody now, but back then. You ever see the hit Jim Burt put on him?
Right.
Age 60, hit him the next month.
That's the thing that these new quarterbacks just don't have to deal with.
Yep.
Joe took a beating during his career. He's dealt with a lot of pain. He was taken off the field on a stretcher, an ambulance. He really, as did Steve Young and Dan. I mean, Joe in particular. You don't get to be Joe Montana without having some serious guts, without standing in there and taking hits.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I mean, he did it all the time.
It also strikes me that he won 4 Super Bowls in his career. He's one of the most decorated players of all time. And he was apologizing at the beginning that they didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's like, and at the end, he's like, it's sad. I'm like, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad for me.
Yeah. Right.
You won 4 damn Super Bowls, man.
Right. Yeah. You're apologizing. That was the greatest moment of my childhood was when you got traded to the Chiefs. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
I was so happy at the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're sorry. But it's funny. I was going to ask him about when they beat Houston. He mentioned the Pittsburgh game, the Walker game.
Yeah.
But to him, it's a divisional round.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's nice. Now, I will say, I bet you if we had more time, I bet you he enjoyed beating the hell out of Buddy Ryan's defense.
Oh, yeah.
Probably had a deep-seated hatred of Buddy Ryan.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I'm sure it meant a lot to him.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
It's like for him, it's a divisional round game. It's fine. We won that. Yeah, it's cool.
Right.
Went to 4 Super Bowls, man. I don't care, but it's a divisional game.
Yeah. I can't. I'm going to try to move past. We've got other guys to talk to.
The next person who's coming here is who?
Next up is we got Kyle Turley and Jim McMahon. They'll be here in about 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so.
We should
depending.
So, Kyle, thoughts on Joe Montana?
Right. Yeah.
We just interviewed Joe Montana 10 minutes ago. Your thoughts on Joe Montana? Yes,
let's just talk to everybody else about Joe Montana the rest of the time.
That's right.
By the way, Joe was working with Advanced Auto Parts. Head to advancedautoparts.com. They got a contest going. So what he says, you get entered if somebody throws over a 25-yard
touchdown pass. You get free gas for a year if you
win the contest. And
I'd be driving everywhere.
Oh man,
I'd be doing circles for fun just to burn gas. But guess who? I'm back.
Oh, I'd be siphoning it out of my own car.
Just throwing it on the road.
No, I'd siphon it out and sell it.
We'd
go to a millionaire. I'd be back there every day. It's probably some kind of limit. Make sure you read the fine print.
By the way, thank you for the super chat, Wendy, who says, Wendy from Canada loves you, Big Joe. Go Chiefs.
Oh.
That was also, I apologize. Somebody up there earlier, I'm trying to find it right now. Somebody was like, Alex was like, that guy seems like he's decent at football.
Yeah.
He was all right, Alex. He might make it.
He knows a thing or two. I mean, I could have talked to him for the rest of the weekend.
To say the least.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I didn't say anything really embarrassing. By the way, I love you.
Right. I know. I know.
You don't understand, man. When I was a kid, you were in my life. So that was cool. Yeah. In this business, you talk to enough people that you don't get too it was funny. Even I guess I was interviewing Mahomes, and Mahomes is great. Mahomes is younger.
Right.
Mahomes is 27 years old, and he came to the league as I've already been covering it. So don't get me wrong, you recognize and respect his greatness, but at the same point, I just look at it I'm just reporting on him and reporting on the league, and that's my job.
Sure.
And even though this is my job, when Joe Montana sits down, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. When somebody that you looked up to and admired as a kid, that's just a different. That's a different sort of.
There's a whole nostalgic quality to it.
Right.
I've interviewed Mahomes. I've interviewed Brady. I've been fortunate enough to do it. I've sat and watched games with Steve Young. Should have asked him that. Joe, thoughts on Steve Young? Real thoughts?
Right. Right.
The funny thing is, we're actually friends. But it's a different deal when you sit down with somebody hey man, when I was 5 and 6 years old, you were my hero.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
And we talked about the beating that Joe took and the way that the game has changed. if Joe Montana's playing today with the sports science that they have today, with the rules the way that they are,
That's the big thing.
Like, that's the thing, right? I mean,
yep.
this was a guy. I don't think, did Joe ever throw for over 4,000 yards in a
You know,
season?
that's a good question. I'll look it up
He
right
did.
now.
I think he came close.
Might have won. I mean, he won 2 MVPs.
Yeah, but I mean, the way the rules are, and it also speaks to the greatness of Jerry Rice when they could mug you.
No, he never did.
Yeah.
Never threw for 4,000. 39-10. Excuse me, 39-44 was his high. Here's what's funny. Like in Kansas City, his first year with the Chiefs, he only played 11 games, 2,144 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 7 picks. But then there's that quality that you're like, yeah, but like in the playoffs, he threw for 700 yards.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Just crazy.
And you had Marty Schottenheimer, totally different style of offense,
course.
running the ball a
It's a
million
different
times.
time.
Like, okay, Joe Montana in his prime with Andy Reid.
Oh my God.
How many yards does he throw for? How many touchdowns?
He's probably like Brady's been, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
4,840 touchdowns. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, well, even back then, look, when he played, it was not uncommon to have a pretty close, like 1-to-1 TD to interception ratio. Like that, I mean, Elway did that all the time.
Right.
Montana, that's the one thing where he did separate himself. 26-12, 28-10, 27-13, 31-13, 26-8.
Yeah.
Like he didn't throw a lot of picks. He threw a lot of touchdowns. In '93, he only played 11 games for the Chiefs. He still made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, you look back at his career, 2-time MVP, all decade. I mean, it speaks for itself. He was incredible. And up until recently, the best quarterback I'd ever seen in a Chiefs uniform.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, that was the other thing when he apologized for the Super Bowl. I was like, Joe, you only like some of the only happy memories I have as a kid as a Chiefs fan. Not disrespect my parents, as a Chiefs fan, right?
I'll disrespect my parents.
Yeah, right.
That's all I had to live for.
I'm gonna see your dad, I think, again on this trip. I'll let him know.
He knows.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
Right? He said, I agree.
Yeah.
Same
By
back
the way,
to you.
to point out how different the world was. So in John Elway, 1987, won the MVP. He completed 54.5% of his passes, threw for 3,198 yards, 19 TDs, and 12 picks. He's the MVP of the league.
Right.
That's Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's
why when you get
but
into
it's
these
just so different now.
comparisons, you've got to
factor in the eras.
Right.
It's
You've
just
got to
so
throw out the
different.
numbers, right? Like, and
Yep.
what about the championship element of this, right? Like the
of
ring
course.
counting. How many when Brady turned 38, which was when Joe retired, he won 4 more Super Bowls after 38, or was it 3?
4, I think.
No, I think it was 3. He had tied Joe,
Okay.
and he's got
Listen,
7.
I have all respect.
So, like,
Brady.
if Joe played as long as Brady did,
Right.
or if he could have,
Or he played in that division.
right? Oh,
Just-
God Almighty!
Never, so now look, the NFC West wasn't exactly murder in the '80s, but I'm just saying, like, to not account for era is just stupid.
Right.
Like you have, for an example, I got Elway's Pro Football Reference page pulled up. '93, we're just talking about Montana. Elway led the league in yards per game, 252. That's a bad day for Mahomes.
Right.
Like that was the
Right.
league. You
Right.
know, so I think sometimes people just don't understand. If they didn't watch the game back then, they're like, what are those stats? And you're like, no, man. Like, you don't understand. Like this year, Mahomes led the league 309 yards per game. Okay.
Right.
And by the way, the worst number when Mahomes was really struggling, 285 a game.
Yeah.
Now, it's Mahomes, but the point remains.
Yeah, and if you saw, and I know we have some. We're not old, but we have some younger
we're
viewers. Yeah, we do. We sure do. If you didn't see Elway and Marino play, they were amazing. They had these. I mean, John Elway, one of the most athletic quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Honestly, that's who Mahomes reminds me of.
Exactly.
Is
Yeah.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Is Elway. I mean, Elway is who he plays like.
Yeah.
Really, with being able to go cross-body throws and on the
arm.
run, bigger guy who can move.
Yep.
That people always say Aaron Rodgers. I don't agree. It's
Right.
Elway to me. That's who
Yeah.
it reminds me of more than anybody else.
Yeah, and so that's where I think when you get into the ring counting, it's a little disingenuous. Just kind of throw that out. Like, look, does winning championships matter? Of course.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about the greatest of all time, this is a team sport. Right? These guys are not doing it themselves. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Mahomes lost Super Bowl. He didn't have an offensive line. If he had this offensive line, maybe he wins that Super Bowl.
By the way, Sam Monson tweeting out a picture of Joe and the two idiots on the
Look
side.
at that. Look
That's
at
right.
that. I looked. This is actually the best we've looked all week.
It's
because you can only see the back of our heads.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's great. That's great. Make sure everybody share that. We got a couple more guests coming up here. This is another exciting one, man.
Oh, yeah, big time. They're a Super Bowl champ.
Yeah, another Super Bowl champ who had also one of the best defenses ever. The best defense.
Very, very much so. Very much so.
Absolutely.
We welcome in Jim McMahon here in a second. Jim, take your time, man. No worries. What's going on?
Kyle, Turley, and I were just floating around here, just trying to get our message across about our Revenant MJ company and getting the NFL to stop testing for marijuana.
Well, why don't we wait for Kyle? Why don't we talk about that a little bit? So what are you doing with them, and why is it important to you?
Well, we promoting this as a medicine, try to get these guys off all these pills that they've been taking for years that have been proven to be killing people, being addictive, and all they do is mask pain. They don't help you at all. Whereas cannabis, every living thing has a cannabinoid system in their body. It's the number one regulatory system in your body. We're supposed to be using this plant. And we have no receptors in our body for Percocet or Vicodin or all the other drugs they try to push down your throat that don't do anything, like I said, but mask pain, whereas this medicine is it's an anti-inflammatory, and it's the only patented neuroprotectant in the world. So why aren't we able to use this without repercussions?
I'm curious. I know you've dealt with a lot of headaches after your career. You had many concussions. As Kyle Turley joins us as well. Kyle, thanks a lot for joining us, man. How are you? How are you feeling now? Have you been able to – has some of the concussion symptoms subsided over the years, or are they still – as bad as you've been? Where are you in your
No, I'm definitely getting better. I still have to go see my doc in New York about every 4 months. I need an adjustment. But as far as the rest of my body, I'm back to, fairly normal. I haven't, like Kyle, I hadn't had an opioid for probably 15 years. I had this surgery 15 months ago, and I tried to go without the pills, but it got infected, and I never felt pain like that, so I had to take a couple for that. But other than that, it's been strictly cannabis for the last 15 years, and it's my body and mind feel a hell of a lot better.
And Kyle, I know you're working alongside Jim here. You're stepping in. How has it helped you? I mean, what has it done for you in your post-playing career?
Yeah, same experience. Just continue to have a resolution in this where it speaks to me every day that I never needed any of those pills. And, everybody's got something going on, right? And so how do you address that? My personal approach is get back to the gym, get back to eating healthy, and try to use the things that work, because we used all the things that didn't work, right? And they just got us back out of the field as fast as we could. And especially the cognitive injuries, Jim downplays it because, he's just Jim McMahon, he's just a tough guy. But he shouldn't be sitting here, period, right? Our community's lost 44 guys this year alone under the age of 50 that played in the NFL. Nobody talking about that. And things are happening in our community. He goes back to 85 Bear reunions, and he's the only guy half walking around. You got guys like Mongo out there with ALS and everybody else that's suffering from all these pill addictions and alcoholism and everything else that's ruining their lives. And this guy's he's on the golf course. He's just sitting in a wheelchair right now because we're pushing him around on that bum ankle.
Yeah. Kyle, you probably don't remember this, but 13 years ago when I got into the industry, I interviewed you. You were the first former player that I interviewed at the time. And back then I asked you if you thought the NFL was taking head injuries seriously. And you said unequivocally, no.
Yeah.
It's 13 years later. We're at the Super Bowl. Has things changed?
3 letters, TUA. Okay. And that kid, he never got an opportunity to recover from that. And the first one he had, that they realized that this guy's got a serious situation going on here, put him back on the field again. Same thing happened. Put him back on the field again. Now they said he'd recovered and then through concussion protocol, a week ago? Like, why did you announce that he's done? They're not even playing the Super Bowl. But if he was, you're saying that he'd be back on that field and everybody be watching the Super Bowl, and all of the DraftKings bettors would be going, sweet, we got a guy in here that's going to completely potentially lose maybe his life. Who knows? And we'll get to put bets on it, I mean, where have we gone to the side where they said they're improving it? I don't see it at all, period.
I'm curious from your perspective. I mean, we can cover the league all we want, but you guys played it. You deal with it every day. How much pressure is there on you to play through an injury, especially a head injury where it's not a broken bone. It's not, hey, I can't run, man. I can't throw because my elbow's busted. Like, it's a head injury. There's a little, especially when you played, where I remember watching a game as a kid. You played against the Giants with the Vikings in the playoffs, and you got knocked out 3 different times and kept coming back. Is there a lot of internal pressure from the team? And man, we need you to get back out there.
Well, you get a little bit from the team, but it's all internal most of the time. I mean, guys like myself, if I can walk on the field, I'm going to play, and that was our mentality back then. And the game you're referring to is actually I broke my neck in that game. My legs went numb twice, and I didn't realize I'd broken it. I knew something was wrong, seriously, and I didn't find out I'd broken my neck until 12 years later. I was going through workman's comp, and they do all the X-rays, and the guy said, "Hey, when did you break your neck?" And so I played 6 more years. So I'm lucky to be, I was walking until I pushed around this wheelchair, but I'm lucky to be walking around.
You didn't know for 12 years?
No, because we lost the game, so the season's over, right? So you go in the next day, you meet with the coach, and say, "Hey, I'll see you next year," and that's basically how it goes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Carl, what's the worst injury you ever played through in your career? Being an O-lineman, I mean, there's a lot of warfare in the trenches and all that. What's the injury that you're like, man?
Just coming back from a back injury, really. I mean, that was my deal. Was the anything during the game, you just don't really feel half of it anyways from the adrenaline, and then they give you the Toradol shot, and you don't feel nothing after that. So you can play through a lot of things, but coming back from a back injury, that was the struggle, because you're dealing with a lot of things now that you just never thought were even possible as far as pain is concerned. When it comes to sciatic nerve pain, that's just insane, and it shuts your whole leg down. You can't move. I can't do one calf raise on my right leg, not one, just because my whole right leg got shut down from this back injury. So that was it for me. But and then the pain that revolves around that, but the cognitive injuries for sure. I mean, I almost at the end of my career in Kansas City couldn't go back on the field without thinking, if I hit a guy real hard, I might be going out this game. Just because I knew it was that close after a while.
It's really awesome. You guys have long histories of standing up for players' rights, and their recovery and the trauma that they suffer out on the field, putting their bodies on the line. You're opening up a recovery center in 2023. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's been something I've been working on, and that's our effort right now to continue to progress this company to where we can do things like that and open recovery centers. A couple players have tried to do it. The NFL has gone against the opportunity to really build a hub and a home. I've had meetings with them and with Coach Ditka and all these other groups that we've been a part of, and they really have just refused to do it. So we have to find a way, and through that, and our company is the route to it. We continue to build a company that is having success in this industry, and nothing is going higher than cannabis as far as growth is concerned out there. People are investing their money in things. Cannabis is barely scratching the surface, the tip of the iceberg. Any analogy you want to put to it, it's only just begun. And being in the ground floor with the message that we have, we hope to have a sustainable, lasting brand in Revenant that can just go across the state. We're in a country. We're in 9 states, and here in Arizona, you can go and get all our products right now out here at all the mint dispensaries. And we're in California. We're working on Missouri, Nevada, Illinois, and Oklahoma, and we'll be everywhere as soon as it's allowed. An opportunity presents itself.
I'm curious for you guys. Do you have a lot of current players reach out to you? Do you talk to a lot of current players about, hey, look, there's a better way to go about this, maybe than having, as you mentioned, Toradol shots and any kind of pills, any kind of painkillers. Is it more former players that you're talking with now, or is it current guys as well?
Both. I mean, the message is resonating in the locker room now. These players are now hearing and what we're saying, and they have been. I know they have. Coach still a lot of guys, trained some guys that are coming up out of high schools and colleges, and now they're in the NFL. And they understand it. And they say the locker room is, very open and using cannabis openly for that medicinal purpose. There's still, guys that want to get together and, just have a little smoke session or something like that, I'm sure. But nothing wrong with that. Exactly. Exactly. So it's both. But our retired player community, with all of our ailments and our statistics, is the cannabis is the answer, and it is just resonating through that community like a wildfire. It's awesome.
Jim, I got to ask, I'd be remiss if I didn't, since we're here at the Super Bowl. Your Super Bowl team is one of the most famous in NFL history. I've gotten to know some of the guys being based out of Chicago. when you were going to that game, heavy favorites against New England, at the time you're going to say all the right things. But in reality, were you going to that game thinking it's not a matter of whether we win or lose, it's just a matter of what the score is? I mean, what was the approach that week?
We had no worries at all. I mean, we had played them earlier in the season, so we had a good feel for them. And at the time, we were on such a roll. It didn't matter, who we played. I would have liked to play Miami because that was the only loss we had that year, and I didn't get to play that night, so I was kind of looking forward to them. But they got beat at home by New England, so we weren't really worried about who we were going to play. I don't think it would have mattered. We were just that good a team.
Jim, Jalen Hurts is playing in his first Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, this is his third Super Bowl. For a young guy playing in his first Super Bowl and Hurts, what advice would you give him, having been there yourself, about how to keep his nerves under control in the biggest stage in the world?
Well, you're going to prepare like you did every game, every week. And so the preparation time on the field is going to be the same. The only distraction is going to be things like this. They're going to have to deal with a hell of a lot more media. But once you get out on the field, pregame warm-up, things will kick in. And if he just, plays the way they played all year, they shouldn't have a problem. But the guys that seem to struggle are guys that let all the distractions take away from their preparation. So if you prepare properly, you shouldn't have a problem on Sunday.
Do you guys have a feel for this game? This game is one of the more competitive Super Bowls I can remember in terms of anyway the build-up. Only a 1.5 point spread, I think it is right now. Do you guys have a feel one way or the other on whether you lean Philly or Kansas City?
Well, I don't watch the game enough. I haven't seen Philly play at all this year, and I have seen Mahomes play a couple of times over the past couple of years. But they're both great football teams, and they're both quarterbacks are playing at a high level. So I think it's going to be probably one of the better Super Bowls that we've had in quite a while, I think. And we'll just see what happens.
Let me ask you then real quick. With Mahomes, I know you said you've only seen him a couple times over the years, but as a quarterback, is it easy to appreciate what he does out on the field, watching him, even if it's only once in a while?
Well, I knew back 3 years ago when they drafted him. I was with Andy Reid, and they had just traded Alex Smith. And I asked Andy, you guys going to be okay? And he said, oh, yeah, we're going to be fine. We got this new kid. And he told me about him. And Andy's a good judge of talent. And he said, we're going to be fine. So I never even worried about him. And to see him play, he's very instinctive. He's a smart player. Same with Jalen. So, the quarterbacks are playing well. The rest of the team's going to have to do their job as well.
I want to ask you guys, it's been a while since you played. What do you miss the most about playing in the NFL?
Pass the mic. Man, on just the game, the locker room with the guys, it's nothing like being around the boys, and especially when it's a team like now, you made it all the way to the Super Bowl. I can't imagine that. I got close a couple times, didn't have that opportunity, but those locker rooms were special. You never forget those memories and the work that goes into achieving, a good team in the NFL. It takes a lot of good guys. And so when you're around that many good people that, are helping you as well as you are, that's pretty special. The coaches as well. And just the organization, it's a true family. You feel it, when you're there. When you're gone, it's obviously, that was a bunch of BS. Yeah. Everybody's just trying to get there. Let's get there, right. But just that nothing changes from the locker room. You know what I mean? Those relationships that you make in that locker room just go out forever, and it's awesome.
Kyle, do you have a thought on the game one way or the other?
Yeah, I'm going with my Chiefs. I got to, man. I was almost an Eagle. Almost got drafted. If I wouldn't have went to the Saints, the Eagles were going to pick me. They picked Trey Thomas. So that would have been me there. Dick had took me at 7, so I was a Saint. So I got my Chiefs. So I played my last 2 years in Kansas City. Love that city. Love that, the stadium. I hope they get a Super Bowl back there one year, but it's too cold. They'll have to build them a dome somewhere new out there in Liberty or somewhere.
I got to ask you, Jim, I'm curious. That 85 Bears team was not known for its softness. I mean, you guys were one of the tougher teams in NFL history. Of all the guys on that team, you have to pick one guy. Hey, we're getting into a fight in an alley with 2 guys. Who do you want with you?
That's a good one.
I'll take any one of my old linemen for sure. Mongo for sure. No, we fought every day in practice, so it's our practices last 3 and 3.5 hours because our practices were all live. We had pads on every day, and Buddy Ryan and Mike Dickett didn't like each other, so that trickled down to the players. And so every period was a live period. There was no buddy. And so, defensive guys would complain to Buddy, hey, they're cutting us in practice. And Buddy'd say, do they cut you in the game? Yeah, deal with it. That was his answer. And so, we won in spite of those guys. I think it's instead of because of them.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we get into a scrap here at the Super Bowl, I want Kyle in my corner.
Oh, yeah, you want those big old linemen for sure.
Yeah. Has Marvel called you to be in one of their movies yet?
Yeah, that'd be nice, man. We'll see down the road here. You know, they get me in those.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys coming by. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, and it's awesome all the work you're doing
Yes,
for
sir.
players.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Great to meet you
Take care,
guys.
fellas.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is Kyle Turley and Jim McMahon, of course, longtime NFL vets. Jim, Super Bowl 20 champion with the Chicago Bears, and I'm with you with Kyle. I think if a brawl breaks out, I'm on his side.
Yeah, that's all right, man. I mean, you.
Yep.
All right. Oh, we're just going right into it.
Right into it. Yeah, this is great.
All right. So
Sam, hey, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming by. How's
No
it feel
problem.
to follow Jim McMahon and Joe Montana?
I saw that. I saw Joe Cool was there before. I
I
thought
retweeted the picture you took of it. It's a pinnacle of my career. I'm glad you caught it.
that's definitely the best opening act I've had. I think that's good. I'm gonna like that.
So big game this weekend, I hear.
I hear it. Yeah, the Kelsey Bowl.
Yeah,
The
as
Kelsey
it's been
Bowl.
called.
Yeah.
As it's been called. Listen, I'm curious your thoughts, just kind of overview, 30,000-foot view of the game here we're going to see on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean the starting point I think has to be we got the two best teams in the NFL this season. Like that doesn't always happen. That's the purpose of this game, right? The AFL NFL championship. It's supposed to be the best versus the best, and so many times it isn't. So many times one of these teams, you get just a team works its way through. Maybe you get a form team, but I think we got the best team in the NFC. We got the best team in the AFC, and that's a great starting point. And then when you start going down the rosters and the various strengths and weaknesses of each team, I think all areas look really exciting. Like the Eagles' offensive line, the Chiefs' defensive line.
Right.
The reverse is true. The quarterbacks, like it's so much fun.
I think nationally there's been a perception that, well, the Chiefs have Mahomes,
Mhm.
and they've got Kelsey and Chris Jones, but the Eagles are a much deeper team. Would you agree with that, or do you think that the Chiefs roster is maybe a little bit better than they've been given credit for nationally?
Yeah, I think it's a little more complicated than that. I think the Chiefs probably have, 1, 2, 3 are maybe the best three players in the game. Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
Like those might be the best three players in this entire football team or in the entire football game. The next group, sort of 4 through 12, the Eagles might be much stronger. And then I think the rest, like 13 through 53, I think Kansas City's probably a lot closer to Philadelphia than people think they are. So I think they're fairly balanced. The Eagles are a more complete team, but I do think you're right that it's probably overstated sort of how far behind this Chiefs roster is.
We had your colleague Steve on yesterday. We asked him about the grading system, some of the flack that you guys get from fans. I wanted to ask you though, when you're looking at all these positions, what's the hardest one for you guys to grade?
I think linebackers and safeties are pretty difficult now because of how much stress those guys are put under by opposing offenses. Like the way the game has gone in the last 20 years, the way football, the way offense has evolved, those guys are put in a bind so many different plays, so many different ways. And it's just such a tough job now. So figuring out how those guys are supposed to react within the coverage shell, how they're supposed to react between run and pass, it's very difficult relative to different positions where it's much more simple what they have to do.
Now I'm curious too. By the way, Steve told us to ask you about rugby. So at some point we're gonna have to break down a little bit of rugby
Let's
here
do
before
it.
we go.
He also took a shot at your hair, by the way.
What
He did.
hair?
Yeah,
There
that's
was
what he
the
was
point.
getting at.
There's no shot. Like
Yeah,
there is no hair anymore.
Well, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. These things happen. Life goes
Right.
on.
Yeah.
This game in particular, the thing I'm most fascinated about is Philly's front, which is defensive front, which is tremendous, 70 sacks in the year, against Kansas City's offensive line, which 3 Pro Bowlers, you could argue whether Orlando Brown should have been a Pro Bowler, but he was. 2 All-Pros inside with Tooney and Humphrey. You got Trey Smith on the right side, no slots himself. I think whoever wins that matchup wins this game. Do you agree, or do you think the Chiefs scheme around it to some extent and kind of mitigate that matchup to a degree?
I think it's definitely one of the pivotal matchups in the game. To me, like people are sort of saying, well, this Eagles defensive front is so good, it's going to overwhelm the Chiefs offensive line. We've seen this before. I think the Chiefs offensive line is too much better than it was the last time that happened too. Like, they're not going to get overwhelmed. The interior trio is going to hold its own against that Philadelphia defensive front. Where it gets interesting is Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick on the outside against those two Chiefs offensive tackles that I think are relative weaknesses. And not only are they weaknesses, but I think the matchup with those body types of edge rusher is problematic. Brandon Graham is tiny. Brandon Graham's my height, right? He's this short, stocky dude who is a problem for a guy like Orlando Brown to try and get down and block.
Right?
And Reddick is the same kind of thing. Like, he's a small edge rusher who was so small he was moved to an off-the-ball linebacker when he first came into the league. Those two tackles trying to get hold of those small, low-to-the-ground type of edge rushers that are both very productive players, I think are going to have some trouble. So I don't think the Chiefs are going to be overwhelmed, but Mahomes could find a lot of pressure coming off the edge. And he's a guy that likes to kind of drop deeper than the pocket sometimes. And, he may have to modify that a bit and sort of scoot up into the pocket that he doesn't necessarily do a lot.
And some of the talk this week has been about, if you look at the Eagles schedule, it wasn't exactly murderer's row.
Yeah.
And that this is probably going to be the best offense and the best quarterback that they've gone up against all year. How much of an advantage do you think that is for the Chiefs going into this? Are they going to be able to mitigate some of the things that Philly has been able to do well all year against maybe competition that's not quite on the Chiefs level?
Yeah, it's definitely a relevant point, right, to say that this Eagles team has not had the hardest route to the Super Bowl, right? Whether it was the regular season, a pretty favorable strength of schedule, whether it was the playoffs where they got the Giants team and then a 49ers team that didn't have any quarterbacks. You have to point it out. It's relevant to the analysis of how good they are. But it doesn't mean that they're frauds, right? It isn't the same as the sort of the Vikings data points that we're all pointing to saying this team isn't good. Like, they've somehow won all these games and these one-score games. This is not a good football team. They're getting lucky. The Eagles have been winning these games, and they've been winning comfortably. Like, they've been doing what a good team should do against a favorable schedule. But it is relevant that we don't know if they can still do it against a much better side. And in particular, we don't really know if they can come from behind because they haven't been behind much. They've led for 700-plus snaps this season, which is the most of any team in the league. It's the most of any team in the league in the last 5 years. We know what happens if the Chiefs are in a 10-point hole. They don't care. They don't matter. They'll go and score 2 touchdowns in 5 minutes, and they'll be ahead. We don't know if Jalen Hurts is able to do that the way that Patrick Mahomes does, and if the Eagles offense can contend with being in a double-digit deficit the way the Chiefs can.
This Eagles team, and it's not a perfect comparison, they remind me a lot of the 2019 Ravens, where the Ravens just blew through the league, and they were dynamic at quarterback in a way that now Jackson is a whole nother beast right now, but Hurts is extremely mobile, and now Hurts and the Eagles have a better passing game. Mm-hmm. They've got those weapons on the outside that the Ravens didn't necessarily have.
Yep.
But the Ravens were a defense, and they went about it a different way, a lot of blitzing and whatnot, but they would overwhelm you up front, and they'd cause turnovers, which Philadelphia's been great at. Baltimore got into the playoffs, and that was a weird game where Tennessee got up right away, and it became this kind of to your point, like Baltimore's never behind in that year. So all of a sudden it was like, well, we got to change the way we're playing. I'm curious in this game if the Chiefs get a lead, if they get up 17-7, does Philly stick with the run game, or does this become, all right, we got to throw the ball a little bit more?
Yeah.
I'm also fascinated by, and this is kind of the point I want to get to, Jonathan Gannon's been there for 2 years as D coordinator. He's done a very good job. When they have played playoff caliber teams with good quarterbacks, they've given up a lot of points. Do you think that that's just a small sample size and it's not really something to take away? Or do you look at it and go, yeah, there's something to that. Every time they've played an upper tier offense with Gannon as a coordinator, maybe it's a little bit of that zone. Who knows? They've given up quite a few points.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is just the product of, like, if everything is good, the offense is going to score points in today's NFL. Like, this way the league is set up. It's the way they've been pushing things in the last decade, plus all the rule changes. Like, everything is designed for offenses to score points. And you look at what Mahomes has done since he's come into the league, they're going to put up points against pretty much everybody, almost all the time. Like, it's almost impossible to hold those guys to any kind of moderate sum of yards, points, any kind of production. So I think the reality of it is you could have a really good defense against most teams in the NFL. But when you run up against those really good teams, it's impossible to stop. Like we saw that a lot with Denver this year, where, you know, if Russell Wilson, the offense, could just put up 18 points, they'd have been like Super Bowl contenders, you know? But every now and again, that defense would break down and somebody would score a touchdown. It's like, it's so hard to play perfect defense for 70 snaps in a game and not give up something.
You mentioned the Eagles pass rushers versus the Chiefs tackles as a potential advantage for Philly. What positional advantage do you think the Chiefs have over the Eagles heading into this one?
I mean, obviously that starting combination of Mahomes to Kelsey, it's been unstoppable, right? And it's so fascinating the way it works, because you can take away the first thing. You can take away the thing that they've drawn up, the play called, whatever's on the chalkboard. You can stop that. But what is so hard to stop, like exponentially more difficult, is the mid-play adjustment that Travis Kelsey and Mahomes are able to make on the fly to get to attack the space that you've given them by whatever it is you've taken away. And, you know, Mahomes obviously reads the game unlike pretty much any quarterback in the league. But Travis Kelsey reads it the same way. Like, that's the amazing thing about those two guys is, I don't know if this is a product of Kelsey being a quarterback back in college, or if this is just happenstance that he reads the game, but those two guys are on the same page. And even when you figured out a way of taking away where they want to go initially, they adjust. And it's so difficult to stop that. Like, that is the single, maybe most difficult to stop combination in the entire NFL.
The Eagles love to usually sit in his own defense. I mean, that's kind of their bread and butter. The Chiefs are a little bit harder to pin down defensively. They run a lot of different coverages. Spagnuolo's very aggressive with his exotic blitzes. The Eagles are pretty much, look, we're going to get home to the front four, we're going to drop, play zone, blitz every once in a while. Do you think they have to change up a little bit in this game, in the multitude of looks that they give? Or do you think they say, you know what, this is how we got here, went 14-1 with Hurts, we're good, we're going to play this way, try to beat us?
No, I actually think that what is sort of seen as a conservative or, you know, vanilla type of defense is actually the safest way to defend Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's still, there's no good way. Like, he's going to get success whatever you do, but it is less dangerous to make him be patient, to try and play those softer zones, to make him do it bit by bit by bit and beat you with 1,000 paper cuts. And the chances are he will. Like, he'll have success that way. But we've seen just time after time after time, when you get aggressive and go after him with the blitz, it's an immediate death. It's an immediate punishment for that. Like, he's too good against the blitz. Maybe you can say there's virtue in simply being more versatile and trying to confuse him with the multitude of looks, but generally speaking, it doesn't. And I think you're better off just sticking with what you do well, which also happens to be the thing that works the best against Mahomes.
Based on what you've seen from the Chiefs this year, what do they need to do better in this game to beat the Eagles?
I don't think they need to do anything better, really. Like, they're well capable of beating them if they just show up and do what they've done the whole way along. The big thing is injuries, right? Obviously, how healthy is Mahomes going to be? But how healthy is that wide receiver group going to be? They lost pretty much all of them in the AFC title game. They've had a couple of weeks rest to try and get them back on the field. They don't need, you know, a fully healthy wide receiver core. They just need somebody that isn't Travis Kelsey. They need somewhere else to go with the ball. So if they get one or two of Juju Smith-Schuster, of Mecole Hardman, of Kadarius Toney back, if they can just field a group of receivers, I think they're well capable of beating Philadelphia just with what's got them this far.
I think the X factor in the game is either for the Chiefs or for the Eagles.
I think the X factor for any game like this, where we're looking at it and saying, you know, it's a tight encounter, it could go either way. It sounds stupid, but it's always random turnovers and luck, right?
Yeah.
It's, can somebody get the lucky bounce of a ball that steals a possession, or that gets you away from losing a possession? Like, one of the single stats that correlates most closely with wins and losses is always the turnover battle. And it's, you know, everybody preaches it. You be aggressive, you take care of the football, you try and create turnovers. It's often just blind luck. Like, sometimes you're going to get the ball pops out, you get a helmet on the ball, you manage to get the swipe that connects. Like that, those are the plays that can determine a game like this.
All right, I got to ask you, we're getting down to it. What are the grades tell you is going to be the outcome on Sunday? And what do you think the outcome is?
I mean, the grades don't give you an awful lot of help relative to the betting line and everything else. They say it's going to be a close game. Again, two of the best teams in the NFL. I think anytime you start with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, the Chiefs should probably be favorites in that game as your starting point. I do think that, as you said, we're talking up a little bit too much how much better the Eagles roster is top to bottom. So I think you lean the Chiefs being favored.
I am very, very curious to see what the reaction is Monday morning if the Chiefs win. Last question for me. If they win this game, they've won 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. They've been in 3. They've hosted 5 straight AFC title games. Do you see them as a dynasty if they win this game? Or do you say, great team, but didn't win back-to-back? You know?
Yeah.
3-2 in those AFC title games, not 4-1, 5-0. Like, would you rank him as a dynasty, or would you say still more work to be done?
I think they probably need, one more ring to make it a true dynasty. But they're right there in that conversation. If this was the end, like if they got this and the whole thing unraveled and they were 5 straight title games, but 2 Super Bowls, probably not, right? Does that stack up with those great 49ers teams over the years, the Dallas teams, the Patriots, obviously? It's probably just below that group.
I'm with you. I agree. Sam, thanks for joining us, man. Really appreciate
Anytime.
it.
Appreciate you
Thanks
coming
for
by.
having me.
Yeah, take care.
Sam Monson of PFF, and came on even after Steve Palazzolo taking shots at the man.
Yeah,
So-
I know, man. He's got to go around and he's got to go around and follow that man.
Yeah.
and take all the slack.
He's a good dude. So we appreciate that. Clay Harbor coming up next year
Yeah.
on the Arrowhead Addict stream from Radio Row. Got a little bit of time. Can't wait to bring Clay in.
Yeah.
But I thought his analysis there by Sam was spot on.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with him on the whole, and you as well on the dynasty thing. I think you got to get 3 to be
I do
considered a
too.
dynasty,
too.
right? 2 is great. Look, are they an AFC dynasty?
Oh, yeah.
100%,
One of the
right?
best of all time
Yeah,
in the AFC.
yeah. But as far as an NFL dynasty, you've got to get 3. I just want to ask our boss, Zach Best, really quickly. He's behind the camera. If you could get me a Rockstar energy drink and a bottle of water when you get a chance, I'd appreciate it.
Don't press yourself.
I don't want to. I get to do that. I'm doing this one on camera. That's it. And that's, by the way, that's Arrowhead Addict co-founder Zach Best.
That's true.
We talk for a long time on these shows. We're going into we're an hour 2 here of the show. Can you believe in the last hour and 15 minutes, really in the last hour though, we interviewed Joe Montana and Jim McMahon.
It's going good.
That's pretty. That's a good
I've
hour.
done worse in my life.
Unbelievable.
But no, listen, it's been great. We got another 45 minutes. And like I said, we're gonna have Clay Harbor at 2:30 local time. We'll have Adam Best. You might have heard of him.
Yeah.
At 2:45. I should swap out for Zach at that point. Just let him go after the little brother.
Let's let him talk to his brother. And you, by the way, if for our Arrowhead Addict followers, if you haven't been watching, Verderame's been on the microphone since about what, 8 a.m.
9.
It's not 9 Mountain
Tomorrow
time.
at 8 a.m.
Yeah, he'll be up. He'll be. So boy, we got a great lineup tomorrow as well.
Tomorrow, my God, we have so many people. Yeah. It's unbelievable tomorrow. But today, woke up, talked to Jalen Hyatt, who's going to be a first-round pick out of Tennessee as a receiver.
Nice.
Then we had Stephen Largent. And then Malcolm and I did our Stacking the Box Arrowhead Addict stream. We had Trey Wingo. We had Kay Adams. We had TJ Hawkinson. Sean Alexander. We had Kenny Mayne, who was great. And then we did a little CBS news hit. And then here we are.
Yeah. By the way,
after this, I'm going to go to the bar and I'm going to drink myself into a coma.
Right.
But don't drink too much, kids.
Yeah.
But it's been good.
We talked about wanting Kyle Turley in our corner if we got into any trouble out here.
Anytime possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, did you see the guns on TJ Hawkinson?
Yeah, man's built.
He's
football.
Putting his time in at the gym. By the way, if you want to help support our podcast, the Arrowhead Addict podcast, hit that like button on YouTube. Make sure you follow us. Leave us a review over at Apple Podcasts. And if you really want to support us and you want to get a little action
Send us money.
on the game, get yourself some money. We've got a great partnership going right now with BetMGM. All you need to do, if you're in Kansas, this is a deal for our Kansas-specific listeners. If you use the code Arrowhead, you're going to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win when you make that bet. It's a minimum of a $10 bet required. It's new customers only, 21 plus. You got to be present in Kansas. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas. See the full terms at BetMGM or in the description below this video. Can't tell you how much it helps us when you do get a small fee from our friends at BetMGM. Use that code Arrowhead if you haven't bet with them yet. Let's get one more in here. How about FanDuel? Signed up with FanDuel. If you're in Kansas, this is another one for our Kansas listeners. Use that same code, Arrowhead. You're going to get a no-sweat first bet up to $3,000 on the big game. It's a $10 first deposit required, new customers only, 21 plus, present in Kansas. If you have a gambling problem, call that number, like we said, 1-800-522-4700. See the full terms at thesportsbook.fanduel.com or in the description below. All right, Verderame. So, man, we've been talking Chiefs all week. We've previewed this game frontwards, backwards. We're going to keep doing it. At this point, how are you feeling? As we enter, are you getting more and more confident as we get closer to the game? I feel like I'm talking myself into it.
I feel like I don't have to. I just think they're better. I really don't. Look, they could lose. I mean, I'm not. Hell, I picked Cincinnati last week, and thankfully that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. Look, my honest feeling on it is just, I think the Chiefs are slightly lesser from roster spots 5 to 53.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're much lesser. And I agree with Sam. They have the 3 best players on the field. Like, I respect the hell out of Darius Slay and some of those Eagles up front on both sides of the ball. Travis Kelsey might be the best tight end ever.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes might end his career literally as the greatest quarterback to ever live. They also have Andy Reid. Doesn't even know talking about that.
Right.
We have Chris Jones, who is maybe the defensive player of the year. Certainly, he's in the conversation as a finalist. I have all the respect in the world for the Eagles. I do. I genuinely think they're a really good football team. I don't think they're to the level of Kansas City. Like, to me, I would not be surprised if the Chiefs won the game by multiple scores. I would be very surprised if the Chiefs get on out, unless Mahomes is just like just can't move or something.
Right.
But as long as he's relatively healthy, I think sometimes because the game gets analyzed so many different ways, you start to almost warp it in your mind where it's like, look, sometimes it's the most, like, what is it called? Occam's razor?
Occam's razor, yeah.
Like, the most obvious answer is the right answer. I feel like we're just going to wake up on Monday and go, shit, Mahomes was unbelievable.
Right.
Like, that's it. Like, that won the game.
Yeah.
How many times do we say that?
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, he did 3 things that nobody else in the world can do. And Chris Jones made 2 big plays. And Kelsey made 1 great catch. And they win.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is not just against bad. That happens in the Super Bowl with this team. It's happening against the Niners. Where you're like, Mahomes went nuts for a quarter. And they scored 21 points. That was it. Like, I just think sometimes we because we have to, we analyze it so many different ways. And we get away from the main thing.
Yeah, it is. You can kind of go cross-eyed just thinking about it, right?
Sure.
I mean, it is. You analyze it. I think I said this in yesterday's stream. I feel like if this was a regular season game, I wouldn't be worried about it. It'd be one of those games. I'd be like, I think they're going to win. I think the Eagles are a good team, but they're better. I think it's the heightened element of the fact that this is the Super Bowl.
Especially if it wasn't on the road and it's either neutral site or home, I'd be like, they're probably just going to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I also wonder, and I'm not a gambling expert, so I'm not trying to get into that realm. But like, if Mahomes was known to be healthy, they're not favored in this game.
Right.
I feel like they definitely would be. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a betting expert would say, no, it'd be a pick 'em, whatever. I do not think they'd be an underdog.
Yeah.
That I don't think for sure.
Yeah. Let us know what questions you have about the game. We got about 10 more minutes before Clay Harbor gets here. As I said, I'm going to ask him. I want to know if he thinks he knows the tight end position, obviously. Does he think Travis Kelsey's the GOAT? And we got Tony Gonzalez coming by later this week. Are you going to ask Tony Gonzalez if Travis Kelsey's the GOAT?
Yes.
You're going to do it?
I'll ask him.
I'd be nervous to ask him that one.
How big? So, you know what? I would just say, I think it's fair to ask him, like, when you look at Kelsey, do you think he's the greatest tight end of all time? Or do you say, hey, look, man, I hold every record there is for tight ends.
Right.
I mean, I will say this. I genuinely do believe this. Tony Gonzalez's career gets oddly overlooked, even from Kansas City fans.
Yeah.
Tony Gonzalez's career is insane. Like, if you look at the numbers that man put up, it's unbelievable. Like, yeah. I don't think Kelsey has any chance of touching his numbers historically. I think I'm trying to pull it up, but the internet's a little bit slower right now. I'm pretty sure Tony Gonzalez went to 15 Pro Bowls. Some obscene thing like that. We get every year of his, never got hurt, never did bad year. Yeah. And I will say this to be fair to Tony Gonzalez: we have 14 Pro Bowls. Can you imagine if that guy played with Patrick Mahomes?
We just had this conversation earlier out there.
My God, man!
Yeah.
I think that now I will say this. She also played for 17 seasons.
Right.
he had only 4 years of 1,000 yards. That is the argument for Kelsey, where Kelsey is just so dominant that it's just what. But then you also go, yeah, right, but it was a different era, and he played with Brody Croyle.
Right, he
So
was
it's
at
harder
the
to,
forefront of revolutionizing the position as well.
He
Like
was.
that, if you aren't old enough to remember the Tony Gonzalez era, particularly
unbelievable.
the early part, it was it was Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp. Like those are the guys that people started talking about the tight end position a lot differently. And the specific conversation was, hey, these guys are revolutionizing the tight end position. And that's something that like now it's expected. You're going to have your pass catching tight end.
Man was a first team All-Pro at 36 years old.
Right.
Like that's just crazy. 14 Pro Bowls, 6-time first team All-Pro, and an All-Decade team in the 2000s. Now he had 111 touchdowns in his career. Now again, 17 years, but 111. Kelsey's at 69. Okay, and he just finished a year where he had the best ever for him, the career high in 12. He's 33. Is there any chance in your mind he surpasses Gonzalez's touchdowns, 111 to 69? So he needs 42 to tie.
I mean, if he doesn't get injured and he has one of these long tight end careers, yeah, I think he can get there. I mean, it can be tough though. You know, he's going to need a couple big seasons, but if he plays a lot more years with Mahomes,
well, if he plays, he's going to be with Mahomes, I would imagine, right?
And that's going to be the thing probably later in the career for him, where maybe he slows down a little bit, but he's always going to be the red zone threat.
Yes.
So, and we saw this with other guys who played for a long time. These tight ends, these pass catchers, they can continue to be productive. Especially Kelsey, he takes care of himself out there. You know, right? We were talking about Kittle the other day. Kittle really he invites contact. He gets injured a lot, right? Travis Kelsey's been pretty fortunate, and he does fight for extra yards, but not in the same way that a guy like George Kittle does.
No, I mean it's crazy. For my money, if you said to me one game, who do you want? I take Kelsey. I think he's the most dominant tight end I've ever seen. I mean, just pure. Give him the ball and get the hell out of his way. Like, I mean, since 2015, so we're talking 8 years, 8 seasons. He's made the Pro Bowl every single one of those seasons. He's been a first-team All-Pro every single one of those seasons. And in the years he wasn't, he was a second-team All-Pro, save for 1 year. The first year in 2015, he wasn't All-Pro. Okay? He's had, at minimum, 1,038 yards each of the last 7 years. And in 6 of those years, had at least 1,125. Like, it's just bonkers. And then you go to the playoffs where it's just game in, game out, dominant. Like, absolute. In fact, if you look at his postseason career and you look at his game logs in those games, I mean, his yardage totals with Mahomes, just forget with Alex Smith, with Mahomes, 7 catches, 108 yards, 3 for 23 in the AFC Championship game, lost to New England. Year they won the Super Bowl, 10 for 134, 3 touchdowns, 3 catches, 30 yards, 643 and a touchdown in the Super Bowl against the Niners. Then he goes nuclear every game. 8 and 109 and a touchdown. 13, 118, 2 touchdowns. In the Super Bowl loss to Tampa, 10 for 133. 5 and 108 with a touchdown against Pittsburgh. 8, 96 and a touchdown against Buffalo. 10, 95 and a touchdown against the Bengals last year. This year, 14 for 98 and 2 touchdowns and 7 and 78 for 1 touchdown. He's had at least 1 touchdown catch in 10 of his last 12 playoff games. Like, it's just insane.
He's a primetime guy.
Actually, this is perfect. In his career, he has played 17 playoff games, all told. Full season. Here are the numbers in the playoffs for what would be a full season now. 127 receptions, 1,467 yards, and 15 touchdowns. Be the greatest year in NFL history for a tight end. He did in the playoffs.
Right.
It's unbelievable how dominant he's been, and half those games were with Alex Smith.
Would you say he's had a lot of great seasons, but would you say this season with, Tyreek Hill out of the picture, no like superstar wide receiver that teams need to key in on, no superstar running back that teams need to key on. Is this his most impressive year?
Could argue it. I mean, at age 33, you could definitely argue it. 12 touchdowns to lead it all, man. You could argue that. It's really just been incredible. Like when you stop and look, that was a big talking point going into the year. It was like, how is this gonna impact Travis Kelsey losing Tyreek Hill? How is this gonna affect him? The answer is it's not. Turns out it really isn't gonna. So I think there was always, in some ways, it almost helps Travis Kelsey to trade Tyreek Hill from a historical standpoint, because I think there always would have been those detractors like, yeah, well, of course he was great. Look at Tyreek Hill taking off the top. It's like, yeah, and then they didn't, and he's still unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like the whole thing with Mahomes. Like, well, yeah, you got Tyreek. And then we went out and threw 5,200 yards anyway.
Right,
and it's
right.
like almost unanimous MVP. Like, yeah, okay, well, as it turns out, it worked out okay.
By the way, are you seeing this conversation in the chat? I don't know if this is bullshit or not. A couple people are saying that Andy announced that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the starter for the Super Bowl.
I've not seen that. I will say that.
Yeah, I have not seen that. And I don't they said that they saw it in a live press conference, but Andy's done with live press conferences right now, right?
Yeah,
that was this morning.
They're not doing a live press conference right now.
Yeah.
Their availability was like 8 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Alex in the chat says he saw a clip on Twitter. Alex, if you did drop the link, it just doesn't sound right to me.
No, they would be out of their minds if they did that.
No. And even if
Hey,
there you go.
what's going on, man? How are you?
Thanks for stopping
What's
by.
going on?
Have a
Clay
seat.
Harbor going to be joining us here in a second.
Yeah.
Long time no see.
Yeah. Mobile will do that to you. Just speed up your clock. Oh man, how you been?
Good. How about you?
Good, man. Can't
I'm
complain.
still hungover from that day at Mobile.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah, he
We
was
all
talking. I asked him what your drink of choice was. He said beer.
Yeah, dude, I'm a beer guy.
Yeah, it's got a beer. So, how you been? When did you get into town?
Got in yesterday.
Okay.
Mhm.
You here through the game or just through the week?
Through the game. I'm not going to the game, but through the game. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So what has this been like for you? I mean, just the Radio Row. Is this the first time you've been down here on Radio Row?
First time Radio Row, man. It's been fun because, having my old coach, coaching the game, and then my old team, a team that I played for, I can tie to a lot of things because I know how Andy Reid runs his team, and I know how Philly is as an organization. So it's been really cool seeing all that and going to college in Missouri at Missouri State University. I had the tie there to Kansas City. So it's been fun, man. It's been dope, and I'm, I hate to say it, but I think the Eagles are going to win this one.
Okay.
Oh,
All
he's
right.
coming in hot.
Yeah.
Right. So I was going to ask you, like, having played in Missouri and having played for the Eagles, is that who you're rooting for though? Like you got split loyalties in this one.
It's tough, man. It's tough because I know how loyal those fans are in Missouri and being there in college and all those years, the best 7-8 years of my life, college, just kidding. But, Philly was great. I love my time there, but I think this D line is just too good. And you can't blitz Pat Mahomes because Pat Mahomes shreds the blitz. Good defensive line, they can get pressure on him without blitzing. That's the recipe to beat him. I think this D line can. 70 sacks, third in NFL history. Hassan Reddick versus Andrew Wiley. I mean, I think that's a bloodbath waiting to happen. I don't think Andrew Wiley can block Hassan Reddick. He's given up 9 sacks this year. It's a lot of sacks to give up, especially when you have Pat Mahomes getting rid of the ball early. So I think that's going to be the determining factor in this game is the defensive line versus the offensive line for the Chiefs versus the Eagles.
If the Chiefs mitigate that advantage, whether it be by using motion or they go a little quick game or Wiley just happens to hold up better than some of us expect, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest mismatch in the game. Do you think the Eagles still win, or do you think at that point, in other words, what I'm driving at is, do you think the game really pivots on that matchup? Whereas if the Chiefs hold up front, maybe Mahomes gets sacked or something, you say, okay, well, at that point, then I think maybe it becomes a little bit the other way, where Mahomes has his way against his own defense and Philly likes to play.
Andy Reid is really good at matchups. You think, we're worried about the matchup. We've seen Wiley's given up 9 sacks. We've seen Hassan Reddick got 16.5 sacks. Andy Reid has watched the tape too. Andy Reid has a contingency for if this goes south. But his contingency might take, maybe you have to use Travis Kelsey to chip now. Maybe you have to use Jerick McKinnon more to chip in with protection. Maybe you have to use Pacheco in protection a little bit. And that's not what he wants to do. Maybe you get him on the move. He has to trust Orlando Brown too, who I think's been good, but he's not great. I think Josh Sweat is one of the most underrated players on this Eagles team. If you've been watching the Birds, you'll see that guy can freaking play.
Yeah.
John Reddick is good. So is Josh Sweat. And I think another guy, Javon Hargrave, is a guy that doesn't get a lot of attention that is a beast as well. Yeah. And I know he's going against Joe Tooney, who's a guy that's an all-pro caliber guard in his own right. But I think Hargrave can even get some pressure. Then you think about Brandon Graham coming off the bench. I mean, this guy was drafted when I was drafted, coming off of a what do you have? Achilles tear. Yeah. And he's still got 11 sacks. I mean, it's been incredible what he's been able to do. And then we can't forget about Fletcher Cox. So I mean, they're D line, and then you got Robert Quinn coming off from the bench too. People forget that Robert Quinn's even on the Eagles. Yeah, it's crazy.
What advantage do you think the Chiefs have in this game when you look at the matchups between these two teams?
2 words: Patrick Mahomes.
That's a pretty good advantage.
That's the only advantage they have when I look at this team. Obviously, Travis Kelsey too. Dallas Goedert's good, but he's not Travis Kelsey. And those 2 guys, you can never count them out. You never count on Andy Reid. He's going to have a great offensive game plan. He's going to look and see the Andrew Wiley versus Hassan Reddick. He's going to have a plan for all of that. But I think overall as a team, Eagles are just too good. Best team versus the best player. I think the best team wins every time.
Okay. Now, I'm curious. You know Andy? You also know Steve Spagnuolo, right? I mean, just going against him at times in your career.
Yeah.
What does he do that creates a hard? Because that is one thing I'm zeroing in on in this game. Hurts is a very good quarterback. He's young. He's seen Spags once, but that was a year ago when they had a lot. Both teams were wildly different. It was week 3. It's a little bit different than now.
Yeah.
Spags is known for being creative and exotic and bringing weird pressures that you don't expect. What kind of problems can that create for an offense?
I think he's going to light up Hurts. He's going to try to blitz him. I mean, that leaves. I mean, that there's some problems in that too, because you start blitzing Jalen Hurts, he makes a guy miss, then he's off to the races. He's not an easy guy to bring down. Jalen Hurts, I saw Jalen Hurts. I'm like, this guy looks like a tight end. This guy's bigger than me. I'm a tight end.
Big dude.
Jalen Hurts, he's a big guy. Everybody talks about how he can squat 600 pounds. He's tough to bring down. So if you miss and you blitz, and now you got man-to-man coverage on the back end, he can be running for a long time. So he's going to bring some exotic blitzes. He's going to get some pressure, but I think Jalen Hurts can beat that. He's not the best against the blitz, but I think he's good enough to where he makes a guy miss. He can throw the hot route. He's smart enough to where he can beat Spags' blitzes.
Well, we talk about great players. You were a tight end. The Chiefs have one of the best tight ends, maybe the best tight end in the game. I wanted to ask you, how do you think Travis Kelsey stacks up? Like, who do you think the GOAT tight end is, and is Kelsey on pace to achieve that?
That's tough. Because I've been on record as Travis Kelsey's the greatest tight end of all time. I think he is. He's the greatest playmaking tight end of all time. Hands down. Tony Gonzalez, Gronk, I think Travis Kelsey, Shannon Sharp. I think he's better than all of them. Only thing that I can't say about Travis Kelsey is play with Robert Gronkowski. Robert Gronkowski could play offensive tackle if he wasn't a tight end. That's how good of a blocker Robert Gronkowski is. The guy would get his hands inside. He could run the ball behind him every single play. Gronk was one of a kind at blocking, and he made the plays. All-around tight end, blocking tight end, I have to go with Gronk. But as far as receiving tight end, playmaking guy, you got to go with Kelsey.
If you were going to create a tight end in a lab, would it be Gronk?
I think you have to go with Gronk. I mean, Gronk, it's funny because when I was on the New England Patriots, I wanted to see why was Gronk so good? I want to study this guy. I want to get inside his head. I'm using to really, take some things from his game, implement in my game. Watching, couldn't figure it out. I mean, he's fast, but he's not that fast. He's strong. He's not that strong. He's big. He's not the biggest, but the guy just made plays. He could block. He could just do it. And then, he was so smart. You asked him, you try to get inside. Gronk, why'd you run the route like that? And Gronk's a big, dumb animal. I just saw the defense there. And, so instead of going left, I went right. And I'm, trying to get the cerebral, intellectual answer from him so I could,
wasn't coming.
I'm like, wow, you just went left instead of right when you saw the guy there. So it's just a feel. He could just do it, and the guy played hard. No fear. He would not slow down. He'd catch the ball over the middle. He'd not slow down. He looks like he's running with 2 left feet, but the guy would break tackles. He was one of the best run-after-catch players I've ever seen in my career. The guy would just Like you said, not that fast, not that big, not that strong. He would just get it done.
What's your best Gronk story that you can tell in public?
The best Gronk story? Well, Gronk was – I've never seen a better beer pong player.
Oh,
Gronk was my partner in beer pong. I didn't hit a shot, and we blinked out a team. This guy was just incredible at beer pong. He never missed. Never missed. I mean, he just shot after shot after shot. Nah. No shot. Nah. You know how Gronk laughs. Guy just knocking down shots in beer pong like crazy.
Somehow that's not surprising.
No, not in the least. Man went to Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a lot. He practiced that more than practice.
Is he doing Gronk Beach?
Yeah, it's a beach party on Saturday.
Yeah.
If
I
go
didn't
to
get
that,
the invite.
I did, but I'll be clinically dead if I go. You know, it's interesting though. I mean, you played for some very unique head coaches.
Yeah.
You played for Andy. You mentioned your time with the Pats,
Yeah.
and Belichick. Like, obviously they're very different.
Yeah.
But who did you enjoy playing for more? Just from their style, just from their style. I mean, Andy known as the players' coach. Bill's very much, Bill's going to play like this, and there's a way that we're going to do this. Like, obviously, both have had incredible success, but which did you enjoy your time with a little more?
I mean, Andy Reid's one of a kind. He's a guy that you want to play for. But the best coach, I would say, the funnest to play for, I mean, besides the fact that we were just losing every single week, was the Jacksonville Jaguars with Gus Bradley. You could do whatever the heck you wanted there.
That might be part of the
Hey,
problem.
Clay, you feel like practicing today? I'm going to sit this one out, coach. Okay, that's fine. It wasn't quite like that. And I would obviously practice. But as far as like a culture, it was all about just uplifting. And I think that if you had a veteran team, the Gus Bradley culture would be great. When you have a young team like that, you can't. There's not enough discipline to go around. I mean, the guys just didn't get what you had to do to be an NFL player and didn't get, the culture was something you had to protect. But between Andy and Bill, I like Bill, but I mean, Andy was my guy, the guy that drafted me, and I really enjoyed his coaching style.
A little bit earlier today, we had Joe Montana here. Matt
No
and I
way.
both grew up,
Yeah,
Chiefs
it was a
fans,
good
and
time.
we were pretty starstruck.
jealous.
Yeah, starstruck. Meeting Joe Montana. We interviewed a lot of people. It's rare that we're really starstruck, and this was one of those moments.
That's pretty neat.
When you got to the league, having grown up being a huge football guy, who was the first person that you met that you were like, wow, I can't believe I'm meeting this person?
First guy I probably met when I was a little bit starstruck. I was coming from Missouri State, man. So, I mean, I didn't know any, just my team was full of personalities. Got to meet Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy. I mean, those were big name guys, and Nnamdi Asomugha, Vince Young. But honestly, it would have to be when I got signed by the Patriots, Tom Brady. I mean, that guy's just he's larger than life. First person I meet walking into the Patriots facility when I signed, I'm going in, I'm excited, meet everybody, sign with the Patriots, and walking into Gillette Stadium. First person I meet's Tom, and Tom stops me on the way in. He's like, Clay, hey, pleasure to have you here, man. I think you're a great player. Looking forward to playing with you in this offense. I remember thinking that was so cool. Guy like Tom Brady knew me, like a backup tight end. You got Rob Gronkowski, Martellus Bennett already here. He said he's already excited about playing with me and stuff. I'm like, dude, that's pretty freaking cool.
Right.
Now, I was like, yeah, thanks, Tom. Try.
Yeah.
I'm going to do good for you guys. Trying to communicate with him. That was like a little bit of a starstruck moment with Tom.
I feel like I'd be so terrified the first time I screwed something up, like dropped a pass in practice or something. Like, oh God, I'm so sorry. I think he's just gonna cut me right on the field.
Literally,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
time in the huddle, Tom's like, I was swimming in the playbook a little bit, but Tom called the play so fast because he wanted to get to the field, be able to look at the defense and make his moves and audibles and see what covers they're in. So he would call the play. He would call the plays like an auctioneer, like 100, 200, 200, 300, 300, we have 3, we have 4. But he's calling a play like that fast. I'm like looking at him like, what? And he stopped totally. He goes, Clay, I don't like that look in your face. And I'm like, then I get pissed off. He's like, yeah, that's better. And then we go out to the line. We had to run the play, and I do. He's like, yeah, that's the look you need. And I'm like, Tom, you really just played that on me? It's like a Master Yoda moment. Mr. Miyagi teaching Daniel's son something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What, Brady's a guy who never had the biggest arm. He certainly wasn't mobile. What made him so great? In your opinion, you played with him. What was it about Tom Brady that you're like, that dude's just different? That dude was different
competitiveness,
than
man.
other guys.
He was so competitive that he was willing to outwork everybody. He wanted to be perfect. He's playing 7-on-7 in OTAs like it is the Super Bowl. You never rise to the occasion. You fall back to the level of training. That's how he played. A quick Tom Brady story. When I first got to New England, they had these plays, just got to know plays. Most teams had like 10. New England had 100. It's like you say Mountain Dew, which you shouldn't be drinking Mountain Dew, by
Hey,
the
what
way.
do you want from me, man?
But
Gotta stay awake.
yeah,
That's right.
this guy's chugging these rock stars too. So you say Mountain Dew, and you got to know the whole play. You got to know formation. You got to know play. So like green right 373 Y6 slant check 34 zone on 1. So I got really good at this. So they say Mountain Dew. I'd go green right 373 Y6 slant, and then they would say the play like green right 370. You have to say Mountain Dew. They go Mountain Dew. So they switch those up, and that's how they play the game.
Okay.
I got really good, and I started dusting the tight ends. I'm crushing Gronk. I'm crushing Martellus. I'm crushing all the guys in the room. One day, Tom walks in training camp, and he's just talking to Brian Daboll, our tight end coach. And he's like, okay, we're going to run this route because the defense is sitting on it. We're going to run this route at this depth. And he goes, Tom, before you leave, play Clay in this game. Tom's like, come on, Dabes. He called Daboll Dabes. He's like, I've been here for 17 years. Clay's been here for, 5 minutes? You think he's going to beat me in this game? Yeah, just play him. So we play. And Daboll's like, all right, green right 3. I'm like, Mountain Dew. Like, I got really good at him. And I beat Tom like 5-3. He's pissed off. All right. He leaves, slams the door. And I'm like, is he serious? Everybody's going, oh, Clay, oh, Gronk. And the rest of the guys are going crazy. Kind of forget about it. Next day, we're sitting in meetings. Daboll's going through the coverage stuff, boring football stuff. Door opens up and shuts again. All right, Clay, you MFer. He's like, let's go. I go, what is going? Everybody's like, oh, Clay, let's go. So Tom walks in. Daboll's like, oh, he wants to play the game. And he's like, let's go, Clay. So we play the game, and Tom beats me 5-0, looks at me, that's right, leaves, slams the door. This guy is so competitive. I beat him in this dumbass game that he goes home. He probably studies for several minutes, several hours, maybe an hour. I don't know. He studies to come back and just to prove that he's better than me and beat me the next day in front of all the tight ends. So that's how competitive Tom Brady is. Even in a dumb game, it doesn't mean anything. This guy has 6 rings at the time.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. What about playing for Bill Belichick? I got to imagine, every time I see him in an interview, he seems like a big cuddly guy. What's it like coming in, being the new guy in town, and with him and his lofty expectations, and then on top of that, also having to deal with Brady and his lofty expectations?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy. It's like you got to do your job, and if you don't, you're out of here. And I like Belichick. I thought he was a good guy, and great coach, obviously, and he's just one of those guys that you look at, and whatever he says is important. It's like when he speaks, you're listening. He just commands a room, and even when he's, all right, you guys obviously don't know how to run a simple freaking draw. Like, this is embarrassing. What do we teach you? What are you teaching over here, Josh? Is this what you're teaching these guys? I don't know what's going. It's like whenever he talks, you listen, and when he's pissed off that you don't want to be on his bad side, but. Honestly, really good guy. Nothing but good things to say about Bill.
Awesome. Well, hey, listen, Clay, we really appreciate taking a few minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to heed the advice this week, man. It's this or it's Rockstar, and I'm not drinking Rockstar, so it's this.
Dude, my man's chugging those rock stars over there. I was about to maybe an intervention.
It's been a long day.
Those are like 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thanks, pal.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I'll take this.
We've been streaming for a long time. You need something.
Listen, you can't play the health game with me. I was at Veets with you. Okay,
I was taking down IPAs. I'll admit.
These things happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I think you're doing okay. You're all
Yeah.
right.
It's just the size of the shirt is extra medium.
That's
so
just the
it's
shirt.
making my arms look big.
Just showing off a
It's
little
nice
bit.
to finally run to somebody who's in the same kind of physical shape I'm in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, I
My
respect that about you.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Well, hey, Clay Harbor, former NFL tight end, played for Andy, played for Bill, beat Tom Brady in a hilarious game in Foxborough.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah,
Really
appreciate you guys.
Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
All right, fellas.
Yeah. Clay Harbor.
All right, Clay Harbor, great interview.
Yeah, very,
Hysterical.
very good interview. Lighten the mood around here.
That's right.
Do we need to have an intervention
you
for me
forgot
with the
his Mountain
Rockstar?
Dew?
I know. Well, you're gonna have to put that one down. This one's not a diet though.
That's the key has been the diet, because the non-diet is 77 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
And if I drink that, I'm going to have diabetes by the time I'm halfway through this.
I didn't even look at I had to. Oh God, this is
that's right.
this is bad.
Yeah, look at what you did.
63
Look
grams
at
of
what you did.
sugar.
Well, hey man, it's got a B vitamin in it.
Yeah, that's
Congratulations.
right.
Stupid
I'll be all
dumb.
right. We got to get on to the next one. I think here. Yeah, they're hooking us up with some headphones because we got our guy.
Yes.
Our
Yes,
co-host
sir.
Adam Best is going to be on. This is fascinating. Just watching it on the camera here.
Okay. Court. We're gonna see how it goes.
This is live.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at this. This is
Just give us a second. We got to get mic'd up. We got to. We're already
This
mic'd
is
up.
get it done. There you go. Beautiful. That's fine. That's fine. All righty. All right. I'm all set. But Patrick is all set. We'll give him a minute here. We got 13 more minutes on the stream here. We're going to bring Adam Best on just in a second. And we're going to wrap it here right after Adam. But first, we got to bring on one of the main men of the podcast. By the way, real quick, the Eagles, their practice report today, per Jeff McClain, does a great job covering the Eagles over at the Inquirer for Philly. Limited in practice, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Avante Maddox, Landon Dickerson, and Robert Quinn, both full. Nobody missed practice. I've not seen the Chiefs report yet. If it's out, I have not seen it come across my timeline yet. That's where we stand. So both teams, seemingly everybody's practicing.
Hey, and Adam Best joins us, giving us the thumbs up. Adam, we may have a little bit of a delay on our video, so good to see you. Boy, where'd you get that hat, man? That looks good.
Got to come through with the desert drip.
It is the desert trip. It is the desert. I was in the team shop with your brother just yesterday, and we were talking about you and that hat, and talking about how we didn't think we could pull it off, but we knew you could.
Oh, I'll try anything. Not a rock star though. I mean, that thing's got enough caffeine in it to kill a horse, to kill a Clydesdale or
honestly, I meant to tell Zach to get me a diet, but I needed something to keep me awake. And by the way, I want you to know that I noticed that you put thought into what shirt you were going to wear with that hat.
I mean, absolutely. You have. If you're going to wear this thing, you got to come. I mean, I'm thinking like all the way around, man. You know,
you're not a style, an icon like Verderame here.
Well, listen, some of us, it's just natural.
Yeah.
I wake up, I open the closet, I see a shirt, some pants, and some shoes, but that's fine. That'll work. It's the I don't give a you-know-what look.
Yep.
But with a collar and a button shirt, I got to be a person.
Yeah.
I got to rep the company like a human being. But, I'm definitely not matching my hat to my shirt, to my shoes. I can't be bothered with that.
Right.
You have 2 kids. And you come talk to me about style.
Okay, I'll let my wife know.
0 kids. That's the secret, Matt.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's the assignment. All right, Adam. So, have you caught any of our interviews today? Did you see us talk to Joe Montana?
I did. Great interview.
Thank you.
You had to be a little nervous for that one. I know you guys have interviewed a lot of people, but growing up watching Joe, that's different. That's talking to one of your idols, right?
100%. All right, Adam. So it's been a long week. We've been out here. We still got a long way to go. We're at like the halfway point. I just asked Verderame this a little bit ago. How are you feeling heading into this game? As it gets closer, are you getting more and more confident about the Chiefs prospects, or are you feeling more and more nervous?
I'm getting more and more confident. I'll tell you why. The quarterbacks. It comes down to the 2 quarterbacks. Digging into Jalen Hurts. He's been erratic on deep throws since he came back from that shoulder injury. 4 for 13 on deep throws, basically throws that travel over 20 air yards, right? And I looked into it some more. He's great when you don't blitz. He's basically a top 5 quarterback, according to EPA per play, when he plays against man and when you don't blitz him. But when you blitz him, he's a bottom 10 quarterback. So if he's missing on the deep ball because of that shoulder and he doesn't have his touch and he's bad when you blitz him, I think Spagnuolo is going to throw everything but the kitchen sink, and probably the kitchen sink at him too.
My biggest thing in this game, and the more I think about it, the more I just think it benefits Kansas City. It's honestly not even coming from a biased place. It's coming from a place of analyzation of the game. Like, So I'm looking at Next Gen Stats right now. Okay, and they tweeted this out 6-7 minutes ago. And it says Darius Slay has been targeted on just 18 of his 156 man cover snaps this season. And and they have a similar one for Bradbury, who's been in 100 and I'm sorry, it doesn't give how many snaps there were for Bradbury, but it does for Slay. And it's like 156 man coverage snaps. That's like if they played man for 2 games and then never played man again. They sit in zone that much against Mahomes. I don't care what they're doing up front. If they don't win immediately, that's a problem. Like that is a huge issue. Look, if the Eagles just win it up front constantly and they're home in 2 seconds, they're going to win. They're going to win big. But if they sit in the zone coverage the entire game and they mix in 10% of man, I think Mahomes is going to have an enormous game. I think the Eagles are going to have to literally get to him immediately, or it's going to be a hard day for Philadelphia's defense, as talented as it is,
And
just because of the style.
That's tough to do. Mahomes took the 3rd least sacks in the league, only behind the statuesque Brady and Jared Goff. But
Right.
if you dig deeper and you look at pressure to sack rate, basically what percentage of the times you're pressured turn into sacks, he's at 10.5%. That's the best in the league. He's the hardest guy to sack in the league. So in my opinion, that negates that vaunted pass rush a little bit, depending on the health of his ankle. But it seems like reports out of Arizona, you guys tell me, seems like the ankle is looking pretty good.
He said to all of us the other day that he's, quote, way better. So,
Yeah.
I mean, take that for what it's worth. Of course, you could just be lying about it, but that's what he's saying.
You know, he's not going to be 100%. He's going to be dealing with some pain. Hopefully, my biggest fear is a re-aggravation of the injury. If it's not all the way healed, that's something that when you turn your ankle, you're more susceptible to ankle sprains. So we don't want to see that. That could really put a damper on the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. But you got to believe this is the Super Bowl. Mahomes knows it. He knows after the season if he's got to get a little surgery or something, whatever. Like this is it. So he's going to lay it all on the line like he did on that last play against the Bengals, where he hit 18 miles per hour. So if he could hit 18 miles per hour a week after getting that injury, I mean, you got to like it. Now it's 3 weeks since the injury happened. But Adam, I got to ask you, I know one of your favorite non-Chiefs NFL players, A.J. Brown's going to be playing in this game. How worried are you about the Chiefs' ability to stop A.J. Brown?
Well, after looking into the deep throw numbers, I feel better about that aspect of A.J. Brown. But the thing you have to do is tackle. You have to tackle him because he is a bull in the open field.
Yep.
But having Willie Gay healthy, having L'Jarius Sneed healthy, that will really help. He's going to get his. I feel about the same way I did about Jamar Chase. He's going to get 80, 90 yards, whatever. You just can't let him have one of these 140-yard games. If you recall the last time the Chiefs played against him, he dropped one of those games and almost single-handedly beat the Chiefs. You just can't let him do that.
By the way, one thing I think is really interesting. So Mahomes has been blitzed 160 times, not including the playoffs. Only 4 quarterbacks this year have been blitzed more than that. Mahomes has been blitzed a ton.
So they've challenged him.
Goff, Herbert, Hurts, and Geno Smith. Those 4 guys. Now, some of that is Mahomes is throwing the ball a lot. So there's more opportunity to get blitzed. Mahomes has actually scrambled 2 more times this year than Hurts has. Now, again, part of that is Mahomes also throws the ball a lot more than Hurts. So you got to factor that in. Hurts didn't play 2 games. But then you start looking at like quarterback hits. Mahomes took 56 hits this year, which was 6th most in the league. And you wonder in this game, he will hang in the pocket. The only guy who had more time in the pocket this year, like taken between snap and throw, was Justin Fields. Mahomes is 2nd most. And yet, he almost never gets sacked. Like, for an example, so Fields held the ball a 1/10 of a second longer on average than Mahomes. Fields was sacked 55 times. Mahomes was sacked 26 times. So Mahomes, now a lot of that, of course, is being able to move. And that's the one question in this game I have. I don't care if he can run for a ton of yardage. Can he just move enough to avoid the rush? He did that against Cincinnati. So as long as he doesn't re-injure the ankle, I think he's okay. But that's the one thing I'm talking about. He's dealing with the ankle, Hurts dealing with the shoulder. does one of these guys get a little re-injured early in the game? It could change everything about the Super Bowl.
Adam, I want to ask you. Now, Adam does a lot on our TikTok channel. He goes live there sometimes for hours at a time. So make sure you check out the TikTok. He was on there last night. I saw some of you talking about it in the chat. By the way, also, one of you guys said Adam's been a great addition. Technically, we're the additions. If you've been around long enough, Adam started Arrowhead Addict. But we were wise enough to bring him back into the fold.
Yes.
First chance we got.
Of course.
But I wanted to ask you, Adam, you've been spending so much time on the TikTok talking directly. We've been really busy this week. We've been getting to interact a little bit. You've been getting to interact directly with everyone on that TikTok. What's the general sentiment among the Chiefs fans out there? How are they feeling about the game? And what are you getting asked about the most this week?
Probably health. But the Chiefs fans seem confident. The Eagles fans seem confident. I would have to say getting asked a lot about health. Kadarius Toney, the ankle. How will the Chiefs secondary hold up is an interesting one. And then how will the Chiefs stop this running attack? And my answer to that is do what the Washington Commanders did on Monday Night Football. And that's get a lead on these guys and make them play from behind. You do that, you force them to pass, they become one-dimensional. But a lot of Chiefs fans seem worried about that rushing attack.
I'm worried about it. I've been talking about it all week. I think the Chiefs need to get out to a lead to try to mitigate that a little bit, especially. And look, we don't know. You've mentioned it in today's podcast. The Eagles do know the state of Jim's shoulder.
Sure.
And so they're going to come out and they're going to if they know he can't throw it, they're going to probably come hell or high water continue to try to run the football. It's something that they do really well. And if the Chiefs aren't stout enough and they can't get a lead, they're going to find themselves in trouble real quick, I think. That's the biggest worry I have.
Yeah, look, the Eagles are really good. Like, I think sometimes because we're talking a lot about the Chiefs and what they can do, it almost sounds like, well, we're just taking the Eagles so lightly. Like, I'm not at all. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I think the Eagles absolutely can win the football game. I mean, I always I was looking at the ESPN Game Center, like, take it for whatever it's worth. It's literally 50-50, like who thinks going to win. The Eagles are excellent. I think the big question in the game for me is going to be, can the Chiefs hold up front enough? And then when the Eagles have the ball, Hurts against Spagnuolo. Because Spags just does a lot of stuff. It's a lot. Like, if you don't see him all the time, you can watch as much film as you want, but they will throw different looks at you. Like, I think for Burrow, who had a really hard time in the AFC title game against him, Burrow sees him all the time. And he still confused Burrow a lot in that game.
Yeah.
Hurts has seen him once. It was in I actually had to correct myself. I said week 3 earlier, week 4. Week 4 last year when you saw like Ben Neiman and Dan Sorensen and all these guys, like, this is a much different defense. What is it going to look like? I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you know how Philadelphia's going to play you defensively. You know what's coming. That's how they play. They've been very good at it. There's no reason for them to change. You have no clue how the Chiefs are going to play this game. Are they going to be really aggressive? Are they going to sit back? Are they going to play more cover 2? Are they going to play quarters? Are they going to blitz a ton? Are they going to simulate pressure? They do all that stuff. I think that's why, frankly, a lot of times with the Chiefs, they're not good defensively early in the year. And then the latter half of the year, they're much better. Because I think even for them, it's a lot of information to deal with and process.
All right, Adam, how are you feeling, man? I don't know if we're going to get a chance to talk to you again before the game. So ready to give us your final score prediction?
Yeah, let me run through one list for you guys.
Okay.
Before I go. And this is the quarterbacks the Eagles have faced since week 6. Basically the last 4 months. Cooper Rush, Kenny Pickett, Davis Mills, Taylor Heineke, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, the Packers put up 33, Ryan Tannehill, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, he put up 40, Andy Dalton, not Daniel Jones, Davis Webb, actually.
Yes.
Daniel Jones, and then Josh Johnson. They didn't play Burrow. They didn't play Allen. They didn't play Herbert or Lamar. They haven't seen anything like Patrick Mahomes. I do not think they're going to be ready. I have the more battle-tested coach and quarterback, the better coach and quarterback coming out ahead in the end, 31-28 Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. I'm not getting off that train now.
So a close game. So
Yeah.
give me a hard. I want to blow out Chiefs. I can't handle it. I already had one fourth quarter in the Super Bowl where I was basically planning a funeral, and then they came back and I can we have our blowout?
My own funeral.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, I want our Super Bowl blowout. All right, Adam, that was Adam Best, co-founder of arrowheadaddict.com. Make sure you're heading over to arrowheadaddict.com this week with Matt Connor, the crew over there. They've got all of the details you need. Verderame and I are going to be back tomorrow for what is day 4 here, Thursday. And boy, do we have a lineup tomorrow. More star power, Deion Sanders, Adam Vinatieri, Justin Jefferson, another one of Adam's favorite players in the league. Mike Golick Sr. dropping by, Stephen A. Smith, and Tony Richardson. We've got Tony Gonzalez later this week. And as the other Arrowhead Addict co-founder, Zach Best, mentioned in the chat, Mama Kelsey.
Yeah.
We're going to Mama Kelsey today, actually, I think. Right? Later today? Is that later today? 4:30 Mountain. We're going to tape it. Okay, it's not going to be live.
That'll go up on the YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe.
Yeah, we may upload it audio too. Just be on the lookout, but definitely it'll be on the YouTube channel. Mama Kelsey. Just an absolute banger of a week out here. Somebody in the chat mentioned, hey, thank you for all the content you're providing. I feel like I've been down at the Super Bowl with you. That's awesome, man. That's exactly what we're going for. We worked so hard all year, and you guys have done such a great job of supporting us. This is what we wanted, when we fired up the podcast at the start of the year was, can we get down there to Arizona and give our listeners and our viewers the best damn Chiefs coverage out there? That's what we're trying to do. We're going on 6 hours of sleep a night if we're lucky. That might be because we're going out after all the work's done, but
which is what I'm about to
gotta
do
have a good
right
time.
now.
Yeah. Verderame's at like hour 15 straight of streaming, so we're gonna get a drink. I'm gonna finish my rock
time for tomorrow.
Yeah, start time tomorrow. We got Deion Sanders is coming in at will be 10:45 Central Time, so we'll probably start the stream around 9:30 or 10:30. 10:30 Central Time. Oh my God, I need more Rockstar, man. By the way, is Rockstar going to start sponsoring the pod? No?
Were they supposed to?
I would much rather drink Casey beer.
I'm not putting poison in me. No, thank you.
There you go, a little Mountain Dew. Take the edge off.
So, somebody was saying we should have everybody sign the Mountain Dew bottle.
That'd be hilarious
when they come by. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching our stream today. We'll catch you later on. Thank you to Adam Best. Thank you to Joe Montana, to Clay Harbor. God, who else? Jim McMahon. Kyle Turley. It was an absolutely awesome day. Sam Monson, PFF.
But really, thank you to Joe Montana.
Yeah, thank you to producer Richard, producer Hunter for shepherding these guests in and doing everything behind the scenes. You guys have been great. Adam Best, thank you so much. Shout out to Matt Verderame for his long day of streams. I'm Patrick Allen. We will see you guys tomorrow. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.